welcome everybody to MogTalk episode 222. Today is March 6, 2021. If you are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. Today is going to be about house design, which is actually the end game for a lot of different players, whether you realize that or not. And I figured who else to bring on besides some people who dedicate a lot of their time to doing this end game and even have a podcast, HGXIV. Before we go too much further, of course, I want them to all introduce themselves so you know who they are and their voices. We'll go kind of clockwise here. So we'll start here with Ashen, if you don't mind. Tell everybody who you are and kind of your experience with the housing community.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ashen Bride. I think a lot of people might know me, and I'm located on Primal and Famfreet, and I've been designing for a very long time.
You've been what for a long time?
I've been designing. I've been doing housing.
Yeah. To me, you know, you guys don't want to look at my house. Anyways, it's really bad now that I think about it, because it's one of those things I just never really thought too much into. I don't know if a lot of people have, but apparently you guys definitely have, and there's a huge community behind it. So how long have you been designing?
I've been playing forever. I've been playing since A Realm Reborn in 2013. I didn't get a house until 2018 though.
Okay.
So I've been basically I've been just obsessed with it since 2018. It's 2021 now. I do like a house like once a month.
Okay. That's pretty awesome. Oh, well, let's go ahead and get the other two here. We have Synt, Synt, right? Synt?
That's it, Synt. Okay. So, hey everyone, I'm Synt. Despite the accent, I'm also from Famfrit. I've been in housing, it's over a year now. I'm the most junior one here.
Okay.
Basically quit raiding one day, decided to make houses instead, and here we are. Been with HGXIV for at least over half a year now, and I basically just play the game to make houses at this point.
You upgrade it, man. Raiding to housing. So that's a good call on your part. And then let's go on to, last but not least, Dividus.
Yes, my name is Dividus. Dividus Yliaster from Cerberus on the Chaos Data Center, and I've been also in the housing or design community for quite a while. I've started playing roughly at the end of Heavensward. I started playing, and I knew that housing was a thing, but I didn't really get much into it. Obviously, since I had to, make some money, ask my FC to give me some money to get an apartment and all of that, and they helped me make some furniture, and I really just started doing stuff from there, and got to my house just like a year ago or something. Not very, I mainly designed for other people, for friends and stuff like that. But it's been quite a while. Like I do all kinds of things in the game at the moment. It's not only housing. This is why I also don't pop out a house like every month or so, but only maybe every like 3 to 3 months or something, because it's quite something.
So 4 lucky people get a designed house a year. Is what you're
what's
saying.
our again?
Four people are lucky enough to get a house designed by you, is what you're saying.
Maybe 4, more like 2 a year. It feels like at this point.
Yeah, it's a queue list at the moment, Div.
Yeah, but we'll get to that, I guess.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So, thank you all for coming on the show. This is actually something that I'm pretty excited to talk about, mainly because it's just interesting to me how the housing scene has developed in Final Fantasy XIV since it was implemented. When was it implemented? It was implemented in Heavensward? No, it was before Heavensward. It was like the beginning of the game they had housing, right?
Yeah, there was housing in A Realm Reborn. I remember my FC having a house and it looking absolutely terrible, so it's been there.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer from ARR, and that was horrible. That was great. Like, it's if you're coming from other games, it's a bit weird to see something like that in an MMORPG, but it's been interesting.
Yeah,
I remember. I've been playing for a long time, but with housing, I would go into like an FC house, and my FC master's so proud, like, look, I added sofas, but it didn't. I didn't understand what that meant, really.
Yeah.
Now I do.
It was actually, now that I go back to remembering housing, when I started playing the game, just before, I think it was 2.3. So around 2.2, sometime in that 2.2 to 2.3 range, I started playing. And me and one of my friends and my now wife was like, let's go get a house for our little 10-man FC that we have. And so we were doing that, and we're like, man, we got to save up money for it. And that was the barrier, was like getting money for it. And then all of a sudden, now there's no houses anymore everywhere. A housing situation in Final Fantasy XIV is turned into a completely like bought out, everyone has one, some people have 20 situation. It's just funny how much it's evolved since it first came out, because I don't know if anyone really expected it to go to where it is right now with people caring about their houses and everything else. I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but
it's always worth talking about the housing crisis. Seriously,
yeah. It's an actual thing, like a huge issue, because getting into housing, as I mentioned before, is like you start out in an apartment, but obviously there's some stuff you can only do in big houses, obviously with the space and the glitches you can do in some sort of houses too. It's very hard to get into it if you don't already have the house.
Yeah.
Right. It's gotten better now that they added words, because obviously it was necessary, because like if I think back a year and a half ago, maybe housing design especially wasn't just a big thing, really. Like, it was pretty... It's something new. Like, it's been kind of a renaissance in some way. But the issue with that still being everyone wanted a house for their FC, for example. So it was even worse in the past, in my opinion. But now that everyone's actually trying to decorate themselves, they see all the kinds of stuff on Twitter. They want to be like, hey, I want to try to get into that, but how do you do that? First, you need money, as you mentioned before. And then you need the money for the house and also the luck, depending on how long you want to camp for that 14-hour house.
I know what you mean by luck. You need wrists of steel.
Yeah,
you really need
mashing
that.
inputs for that many hours. Oh my!
It's god awful. The system really needs a major overhaul.
I mean, I did it last year, right, when I moved off of EU servers, and it damn near broke my wrists for like weeks.
Well, I mean, you gotta also think how many people are just sitting by that sign with the "Do Not Disturb" by their name, and you're just like, well, I hope I'm just lucky enough, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, especially on an AO.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's spicy.
So, that being said, let's get into a little bit about what you all do here with housing. You have a organization called HGXIV, which I'm assuming, I'm just guessing right now, I don't really know. Home and Garden 14, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right. So, all right, so I guess the best question for that is, what is that? What is it? Just like you three walking around being like, hey guys, here's some houses and everything else, putting them on a website, doing a podcast every once in a while, or is it way more in depth than that?
It's pretty involved. When we first started it, I was talking a lot to Div and Balance, the housing Discord, or the housing channel. And I made a joke one time, and actually the joke stemmed from MogTalk, because everybody was like, housing's so in depth. We have so much to discuss. People talk about reading. Why aren't we talking about housing? So I was like, don't worry, guys. I'll make a podcast. I was joking. But then I came back a couple weeks later, and they're like, well, where is it, Ashen? So I was like, so I talk to Div a lot. And Div and I, we get so passionate about just the way lighting will hit a wall and the way the sun rays will come down at 9 a.m. on a table and creating an immersive atmosphere. And we're not the only ones who are like that. And just when you talk about it enough, it becomes, well, let's make this an actual thing and teach people how to do it. So when we started the podcast, it was just us just talking about things like obviously how to make a room, and then we talked about things like East and West and things that we're doing in our designs, and it kind of became more of a tutorial teaching you how to do this. We're going to show you how to build things, and from that our Break It Down series is huge. And it's luckily very user generated as well. People can just post like their TV setup and people will copy that. And that's ultimately what we want. We want that home and garden thing.
Mhm.
You go to the website, you see something you like, you put it inside your house.
Okay.
I think like an IKEA manual, but like it's user generated.
Yep.
Yeah, the IKEA man.
Yeah, it's like you have so many little pieces that we often have the issue with decorating and posting those pictures on Twitter and the other social media channels that we have, right?
Mhm.
And people were always coming up to designers and us too, asking, "How did you do that? What is that item? What is this item?" And obviously, if you make something like, I think our very first break it down was the wood burner, right?
Yes.
It was like made out of like, I don't know, 10 items. And obviously people were a bit confused on what exactly did he do to make an entirely new item out of all kinds of different small things. So we obviously had to share it in some way, and we immediately saw that people are super interested in that kind of stuff, and they have implemented this item, as Ashen mentioned, like on HGTV. Just they implemented that thing that they saw on our Discord, on our Twitter, and they implemented it in their houses, and it looked really good. And people have been doing this, especially in the recent year, where they just see something very interesting and they're like, "Hey, this is exactly what I've been looking for, but I just wasn't sure how to do it," because there's always a lot of experimentation involved in creating something like a custom furniture piece.
Mhm.
And sometimes you just don't have the resources to mess around with, especially if you're getting into it. This is a big thing. Like, oh, I'm not an omni crafter. I can do anything for shit. I just want to mess around and create something interesting, and if it helps anyone else, what they've been looking forward to create, hell yeah, let's share it. This is a big thing for us too. Like back then, we always wanted to share with people. We wanted to create a discussion. We wanted to create talk about housing, because it was always like, hey, I've seen this picture, I save it, I use it as inspiration, but there wasn't anyone talking about it specifically, apart from obviously the housing channel and the Balance Discord.
Right.
That was literally the only housing outlet we ever had on any Discord. This is how we became friends and stuff like that too back then. So it's a very interesting thing.
The community itself, there's back then, and I guess even now, but back then it was like you couldn't really talk about housing with people, really. So we were lucky with the Discord, but in creating HGXIV, it was a way to kind of make things very transparent. Like Div said, make it easy, show you what to do, and then generate kind of like a community beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah,
and you guys have done that. Go ahead, Synt.
Yeah, because obviously I was a viewer before I was actually part of it, so I think my perspective is probably a little different with like Ashen and Div. But what HGXIV is kind of changed a bit over time, to try and put it in like a succinct way, because obviously they're talking about it's all tutorials and stuff, and yeah, there is definitely that, but it's a lot of it's to kind of like inspire actual creativity in people as well. We do a lot of kind of applying real world concepts to houses, like how light hits across rooms, how like color affects like depth and kind of changes your perspective of stuff. So we teach people, we try to inspire creativity, foster community, build confidence in people, and just get more people involved and loving housing the way we do. That's HGXIV.
Okay. Do you guys, anyone have experience with any of this stuff outside of Final Fantasy 14?
I painted a wall once.
You did a what, Synt?
I painted a wall once.
You painted a wall, okay.
Yeah, nice accent wall. It's blue. It's really good.
Well, for me personally, it was when it was like 10 years ago, 2011. I was really into Minecraft, like as silly as it sounds, but I really started getting interested in level design when I watched Minecraft YouTube videos back in the day. And I've also been playing a lot of other games where you can just like build different levels, like with the creation kit in Skyrim, for example, or in Fallout 4 with the settlement system. And this is like where everything started for me, and I really liked how that worked. And then I was very disappointed in 14, because compared to whatever limitations I had back then, like in, let's say, Heaven's Sword, with the furniture and what we could do back then, it was god awful. No matter where you come from, if you have any past with like level design or interior design, either in real life applications or with other games, God, getting into 14 is awful. Like it's horrible. It's really, really bad.
Yeah. I mean, they give like a limited space. I mean, I'm guessing you. I don't know if you've tried Valheim yet. That's the next step in all of those kind of games, right?
Yeah, I heard about that. I wasn't getting to like I'm not even sure what exactly you do there. I heard some friends play it. I don't know. Is there some decoration thing?
Yeah. You build your base and everything else.
Well,
it's like
I'm moving on from 14. See you guys.
I actually had someone DM me the other day offering me Gil in game to go get Valheim and design for them.
Oh my god.
Game you're not familiar with yet. Just get in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can apply all of the knowledge you collect in 14 and other, like in other games, basically everywhere when it comes to level design.
Oh yeah, that's because it's more than just design within one game, right? It's a general thing. It's just the game is the platform to do it. We could take everything we know and kind of go into the Sims and apply it there, and still kind of probably make stuff that looks like we made it, right?
Yeah.
No, though, I feel so underqualified after I listen to Div. Like, I don't understand how to do stuff like that. But I don't play game. I guess I play Stardew Valley, and I really enjoy like farm layout. I don't know.
It's a little bit
you're
different.
calling yourself. Yeah, you're calling yourself underqualified. I said I play Minecraft and like started learning from it. I don't think that is
Minecraft, and I was like, what?
I don't want to call you out, but you're the person who sits down and like reads all these things about like how having walls at like slightly different angles will affect the flow of the room, and like
I
that's
enjoy
you. You're the most qualified one. Me, I'm useless. I did art at one point in time, and I wasn't that good at it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I tried art too, and then I got angry because I suck so much. I would like look at it and be like, "Man, this is shit. Fuck this."
Oh, this is
like...
a big mood. Oh my god.
I went to college for it multiple times.
Really?
I have never finished college. I am just I get in my head. I am not that good.
I feel you. I feel you with that. I mean, being myself, I just got my degree like within the last year, and I'm 34, so
It's never too late.
Yeah. I'm happy with it. But that being said, you guys are learning a lot of stuff in this game. You are learning concepts that you could probably apply to other things, whether it's in-game, out-of-game, or anything else. If you wanted to get into like house design from here, you have a good stepping stone. Even though maybe it doesn't fit on a resume as well, it's the experience and the know-how and just being able to talk about those things a little bit more cleanly. And it's, art in general, I would think that would be, it could be applied anywhere. Just making things look good. Even web design, right? You could probably, some of the concepts you're learning in user interfaces and other things could work. You're talking about the flow of a building when you go into it. You could talk about the flow of a website, how you feel when you go into it. That's actually very vital.
I completely agree with you.
No.
I'm actually a web designer in training, so it's fitting.
Really?
I'm a big proponent of like calling housing like a form of art because it is entirely creative outlet. So I completely agree with that statement. And of course, you could put it on a CV realistically. I mean, I think we all must remember stories of raid leaders putting it like on their CV that they, they led a guild in WoW. And this is why I'm perfect for middle management.
That's how I got a job, actually.
Really?
Yeah, Jay and I was really good at leading like a small team of people.
Yeah.
You could put that on a resume in some way, yeah. Sure.
I say that a lot, like I'm really good like at leading and everything else on my resumes, but I don't reference my video game experience, and I just say I was a leader in my previous job. That's it, which I was.
That's a good way.
Still.
That's a good way to put it. That you're a raid static leader actually on a resume. Why not?
I mean, go ahead. If it works, it works. I'm too afraid. I keep my work life and my game life 100% split.
Oh, same.
I don't want them to know anything about my nasty, horrible habits of playing video games and being online on the internet. But, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, based upon how I do housing, I'd have to put it on my resume as I'm really good at thinking inside the box.
That was the worst fucking thing I've ever heard you say. I'm sorry.
Every time, man. I'm great at these.
I'm writing this down. Thank you.
I mean, when you talk about housing and why it's so like that, why it's such a big creative outlet, there's something about like being in a situation where you have limited tools and making the best of it. Because I mean, that's what you're doing. You're making items that don't exist out of items that do exist. I mean, you're working with what you have as your canvas and your painting tools in a way. So there's something really impressive to be said about what people can do when they have limited options to make things look good.
I think that is a big appeal of it. I think the fact that everyone has the same toolkit is why housing's kind of got where it is. You don't feel like you have that barrier like you would if you wanted to sell art commissions, because that barrier is entirely yourself, right? Like if everyone has the same thing, then it's an even playing field.
Yeah,
I think about that sometimes, especially regarding things like Sims. I do look at a lot of Sims for concepts because I like to see how rooms are laid out.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those Sims things, I don't play it, but I understand that a lot of it's modded. So you need to have that particular mod. Not everyone's going to have that. And it's nice within Final Fantasy that you are all on an even playing field. And I enjoy trying to figure out how to make a realistic looking like toilet out of a chair. Although in my case, I usually use a sink, and it's fun.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. I mean that kind of goes into the glamour world too. You could you have limited options, but you're trying to make this outfit work and everything else. I mean, technically, you could go completely against TOS, use mods, and then make your model wear literally anything you want to. But it kind of defeats the artistic side of it, right?
It removes the fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's something housing has that like others don't, is that kind of that challenge because of the limited toolkit. You have to like really think about stuff, so it adds this extra like layer of, because I'm me myself, when I design houses, I'm kind of in it for the challenge of it. It's less about just like creating for the sake. I like that challenge. I like to set a goal and then have to work out really weird methods to get there. If I was drawing a picture, I'd just draw the picture.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, the limitations and the constraints within Final Fantasy XIV housing, it just makes it much more fun, and honestly, just being able to create something that technically everyone has access to. This is what I had, and this is the issue I had with Fallout 4 back in the day, because the settlement system was awful, but if you had the right mods, it was amazing. It was the best thing. You could create things that were looking as if Bethesda created it themselves, or even better. But being able to create something like that in a game that is so extremely limited in what furniture they give us, it's just so much more fun figuring that stuff out. And most of the time, if they give us something that we have made from scratch in the past, usually we hate it. It becomes less interested if it's just being served on a silver plate to us because we wanted it. But where's the fun in that? It can look good, right? Like, I like it a lot. It looks more realistic. Obviously, it looks more immersive if you build, because this is what I like a lot about Housing 2, creating something that looks believable in the context of 14. But the issue with that being is just, it doesn't look exactly what I want it to look like in my build specifically. Like, maybe there's some like a lamp that I want in there still, but we don't want to limit ourselves to just what the devs give us. We want to be able to create something without having this blank canvas and being able to create anything we want, because that would be, honestly, I like the challenge about it. Just like Synt said, it's just way more interesting.
There's a sense of pride in making an oven out of 30 slots, opposed to just like slapping an oven down and being like, this looks amazing. Like,
yeah. It's like when someone says, "Hey, I saw this person using a sink as a toilet. Like, I can finally shit down the sink, like button 14, right?" That is the proudest thing in my life, to hear something like that. Okay, maybe not exactly like this, obviously, but
okay. It's a good moment. It's great. It's a good moment.
Yeah, it makes you happy. It makes you feel accomplished.
I am curious. I know you said it wasn't really like you're a sub channel in a rating Discord before, and that has kind of grown into something completely more massive. Not just including your realm, your the HGXIV. How big is the overall community? If you would have to kind of just spitball guess, the housing community. Sorry, how big is that housing community overall?
Huge.
I would say it's massive compared to last year.
Yeah, it has grown to a point where it's nothing comparable what it was before. Before it was just a few guys talking about it in just in like 15 minutes talking about something they like and nobody listening to something where everyone's trying to hear advice or something like that. So many people have been getting into it. Obviously, also Square Enix has been supporting housing, in my opinion, too a lot with adding a shit ton of furniture each major patch. Which is great, and people have been able to create something that looks nice without having to rely on a billion rectangular partitions to make something like out of Legos, which is great.
How dare you?
Yeah, you know I'm right with those paperbacks. But basically, we have to also divide into, in my opinion, we can look at it as a collective thing, but we kind of have to divide into two kind of branches of the housing community, the Eastern and the Western housing community, because they are vastly different.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, it's just the communication barriers there, too, so it's just...
That's true.
Yeah. Our only kind of point of overlap with the Japanese and, like, Chinese and Korean community is Twitter. But for, like, a point of reference of, like, how big the community is, there's at least one Japanese designer over 10k on Twitter just for making houses. There's at least another one coming straight up on 10k. That's pretty significant for something that is like a small subset of a game. Like it's a niche within a niche, and then like you're like 10k. Like that's madness.
Right. So I guess like if you were gonna guess how many people actively pay attention to what's going on in a community and doing everything else, are you talking about like 1,000 people, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 1 billion people?
I couldn't even say, honestly, because not everyone. Well, I would say not everyone is involved in like a Discord or that noticeable.
Yeah.
But I can walk around a housing district and I'll see a house decorated, and they'll use something that I've seen before. They've seen online. So it's probably very widespread.
Okay. It's massive. It's way bigger than you'd ever think it actually is, and it's getting bigger all the time. I mean, we're talking because the thing is, because of what it is, you're going to have people that are just watchers, people that are just contributors. If you want a number, I'm going to genuinely put it somewhere between 10 and 20,000 people.
Which is huge.
If you want a number.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, compared to other parts of the community, obviously, as we mentioned before, maybe the PvP community, if you had to give a comparison, that would be a vastly different, set of people. But yeah, it's like you really have to define what a community really like, what makes it become a part of a community. Because if you just have a house and you look stuff up on Twitter or other websites that provide like inspiration for you, would you consider yourself part of a community if you don't communicate with or like interact with that sad community? Like, how would you define that? That's the issue with that.
It is that you're right, absolutely on that. And if we were going to talk about how many people care about housing in the game, we're talking about half of the population at least of Final Fantasy XIV. And so, I mean, it's a large amount of people, and they're all looking for maybe something about how to do the house, or if they want to investigate into how to do that, they can point towards like major websites, Discords, and everything else, and that would be a huge community overall. But I guess, like in my point of view, I'm thinking of the people who are actively like, looking at new ways to do stuff with housing and actually going out there, and this is just a big part of their day-to-day operations.
This is something we'll probably have to get to later anyway, because we're going to have to talk about glitches. But because the glitches are becoming more commonplace and floating items is becoming more and more widespread, the community is kind of self-perpetuating its own growth, because the more you see it, you kind of go, I want to know how to do that. And so then they come into the Discord servers that have it. And so because that's becoming like more towards the new norm, it encourages people to kind of just fall into the fold by default.
Right.
That's true. They seek the advice. They want to. They need the resources to recreate something they see on Twitter, for example. They want to know how the fuck did you actually create that.
Exactly.
And obviously, we want to provide something like that as a resource too, as HGXIV. So we do see people coming in asking, especially people asking a lot. It's just a thing in the housing community. Like, everyone is very helpful with each other. Like, someone's gonna post a picture with like the most bizarre pixels sticking out of a wall, and someone's gonna like reply to you like, 5 minutes and saying to you, "Hey, that's exactly this item," and we are going to be right about it. Like it's crazy. People are so knowledgeable of all the models in the game, of the furniture we have at our disposal. We can see the smallest thing about something, and we can tell, hey, that's this shelf loaded from below by I don't know how many pixels, just sticking out. And this is basically what we do all the time in housing, honestly.
Wow.
Just making things out of other things.
So why do you think that so many people care about their house in Final Fantasy XIV? Because we were gonna like do it from a completely outside experience. I barely know what an MMO is, but you know, people care a lot about this house that's just this virtual house in the game. Why do people care about their virtual houses in the game?
A creative outlet, of course.
Yeah.
Now,
It's like-
you want something pretty, and also some people take it from their adventurer's perspective. Like, coming back from a hard day of being a warrior of light, and I'm gonna have like a really cozy bed and like a bear rug. You know, people like that.
Many use it as like a actual like immersive aspect of their character, and I like that a lot. That's personally my favorite, and it's just very interesting to me, honestly, to hear what people come up with, because sometimes people create lore about their houses too, and I do that a lot. I love it. I love doing immersive housing in 14 in the context of a game. It's just the best thing to hear that. And also, I think someone mentioned that, I overheard that on someone's YouTube channel. They said their real life houses probably look like shit, and it's very expensive to change that, but in game you at least have some degree of control.
Oh,
That's fair.
It's sad because I'm like that.
I think a lot of also people kind of like being really into it. Crazy as it's gonna sound, because of FC houses. By Square tying so many like small utility things to FC houses, it's like, okay, so the FC is gonna get this house, so you know we can get our grade 3 buffs and stuff, and then it's there's a house, so you've got to decorate the house, and then you see the decorated house, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my own house now, and then this whole sense of pride comes into it, and it's
like having something, like being able to say, hey, that's my house. But also, this is something I wanted to mention too, like we had an interview with a very popular Japanese designer on the podcast quite a while ago, and we talked about one aspect that is very interesting to us in the sense of the Japanese community. They communicate a lot through the game. Like, they go into houses, sit down together, and chat. This is something very weird to us Westerners, in my opinion, because I never heard of anyone doing that. They all just sit in Discord, do their other stuff on the side, raid or be in a dungeon or roulette or something like that, right? But they just sit down and talk through that. They don't use Discord or maybe they use Line at best, but they don't really use Discord or something like that. They don't voice chat a lot because they just like the time. They just come home, and most of the Japanese player base, not most, but like a lot of them are on PS4, for example. They just want to sit down on their couch and chat with their friends. I remember Yoshi P in the documentary about Realm Reborn. He mentioned that people, after the earthquake hit Japan, the big one that really, I think around the start of 2.0, people were worried about their actual C-mates, right? And they were like hoping they would come online and talk about stuff like that, and they were able to stay in touch because the servers stayed online during this hard time where electricity was out and stuff. And it was very heartwarming, and that led me to believe that the Japanese community especially uses that as like the game as a form of communication. And if you look at stuff like VTubers and stuff like that, how they set up their streams with little tables, with the little drinks and stuff like that. Now apply that to Final Fantasy XIV housing, where they sit down and just have a little chat while being able to not meet in real life because maybe there's a distance between them, or now in the times of COVID, right? They can't meet up. They just sit down in the game and have a nice cozy place to look around at and be together in some kind of form. And that's very wholesome, and I love it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, actually,
go
ahead.
Well, actually, I was going to ask Div if he remembers BJ, Soryu, and I think it was Mikon. They started to do, like what he said, visit in-game, but they started to do an in-game workshop, and they had dozens of people attend, and they would just talk and field questions from people. And it's kind of like, a Twitch stream, but instead of a chat, it's all in-game. And they would talk and do questions. And then I think that they would build in front of them. And that's such an interesting aspect to me because when we do it, we obviously build on stream, but there is a disconnect because it's just us three building in a house and we'll read chat. And then here they are building in front of people, treating it like a school, like a workshop, and it's so cool to me.
I think they just view stuff like this way more socially than the West does. I think
they really do.
Just generally. So them sitting down and I think all three of them were in the garden at one point, like giving seminars to people. Part of the course. They're living their life through that game. We just kind of log in and we're like, this character, do some raids, whatever, log off, talk to our mate on Discord. It's different.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that to an extent though, because I have seen some pretty interesting things socially within the game that's been happening. And for me personally, I do what you said. I log in, I do my raiding stuff. I don't talk to anyone in the game. I don't do anything besides just getting on and playing it a little bit, then getting off. I do meme and shout chat every once in a while, and they get upset with me. But outside that, but yeah, no, I just want to say that like there's like clubs all over. Especially on the western side, there's clubs everywhere, and I'll see it on stream. I mean, Sly does it as well, where he has his kind of velvet room, and people kind of come in. Or like, I forget what the name of the place is called, but there's a place that he'll go into, and it's just people hanging out in this big house that they made into this giant club. There's even a gentleman, I forget what his name is DJ Blue maybe, or something similar to that, who streams on music on Twitch. And he does his DJ thing, and in the background is a Final Fantasy XIV house where everybody's just dancing.
In that, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we rated Sly, like we talked to Sly a bit about all of the stuff that he does. He has his own radio show, I remember, where he does all of the cool music too. And we've seen that people have created amazing nightclubs, for example. Personally, not my cup of tea, right? But recently I've been at one on Chaos, actually. And it's been so much fun. But people put on VRP tags, some people don't. They just, like, sit down and small talk. And this is the first time I've really seen something like that, because before that didn't happen. But I think that COVID is actually kind of having an influence on that. People just want to, like, hang out and do something, even meet new people. Even hell, if it be through a fucking MMORPG, the better, right? You can do something together. You can start running content together just by meeting them at a nightclub or something. I think this is very interesting. And personally, I'd like to see when people are like, "Hey, I want to provide that kind of space as a housing designer."
Well, exactly. That kind of swings back to what are you designed for? Why do you design? And these FCs are making a little community area, and they're taking a lot of pride in that.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. And I think that, like, in the end, when we were talking about COVID and everything else being kind of a big part of all of this, because it is the digital safe place for going and not getting people infected, but having some sort of experience with other people, with something outside of maybe a Zoom call or something like that. Like you're actually going in and you're trying to play a game with someone else, or you just want to talk and mess around, but do it in like this environment where you can kind of interact with other people and just socially. Not like anything crazy. You don't have to go kill giant blobs or anything else. You could just be social with someone in an area. And I think maybe, the whole housing thing, like you said, kind of expanded a lot because of COVID giving us limitations and giving us this as an outlet to circumvent them.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I am so far away from a person that role plays. I couldn't even imagine doing it. But I feel like everyone's probably had this. At some point in time, someone's run up to you in game and given you like an emote hug, and it actually cheers you up a little bit. And it's got nothing to do with like role playing, but like it has an effect. So when everyone's in like so much isolation, like MMOs are like the perfect thing for it, and then housing's a great extension for it because it's like the one place where you can like really express your personality in the entire environment. Yeah, which makes it so much different from just sitting in Aldar.
I completely concur. I get slapped all the time, and man, sometimes
you love it. It's just right.
It's just right. Yeah.
Well, if you could say that it hits right, obviously, but I do agree that, like, in our podcast, I was also saying that people just wanted to also they just seek something to do. And also, I think that is a big influence too when it comes to the development of the housing community itself. Like, people just wanted to experiment with stuff they haven't touched before, especially if they are like a very frequent player of a game. Like, they're rated before, they've cleared all of the savage raids or something, or ultimates, and they just want something else to do. You can't get into PvP queues because, haha, that's fucking dead. And housing is something you can just. Housing is just something you can always do. Like, you don't need anyone else. You're just like in your own zone. You get all the furniture. You look up stuff. You look up look up inspiration and stuff like that. And no one else bothers you. You can spend your time. For me personally, it's like a I always go into this kind of like hermit mode where I'm like, don't talk to me. I just wanna do something right now. I just want to do something for myself. I just want to decorate. And this is something that I think a lot of people needed in the past. But now they are using what they create, as a social place. Like we mentioned before, it's just a great thing.
You've just brought like a serious point into my head that I honestly just haven't connected the dots before now. I'm sure you've had this recently on the podcast with like the delay of the ultimate raid and everything. This game has a bit of a content drought at the moment. Well, we can't pretend it doesn't. We're about to go like a year with like no raid content. I think the whole Shadowbringers cycle has been a bit low. So should we be shocked that housing has picked up in volume massively during the course of Shadowbringers? I think there's probably a line there. People looking for something to do, finding housing.
Yeah, I mean, it is something to do. It's a creative outlet in some way. And it is kind of, when we talk about raiding in general, a lot of times for people is putting together the puzzle and how to make it work, and doing the dance right and everything else, and just making it all jive just right. And we're talking about housing. Sometimes you're trying to figure out the puzzle, the how to make an item exist, or how to make it work just right and feel right, and that does correlate very much with what raiders are interested in. Same thing with PvP. There's a lot of really hardcore raiders that do PvP, and it's just figuring out that puzzle of how to like work with people you don't know and make a victory out of it somehow. But I do think that all the side content is going to get much more energetic all the way up to October.
Yeah, I do agree. Oh my god, housing parses. They just rate your houses. Yeah. How many glitches did you use? Just gonna analyze that shit.
Speedrun house design. Like what you could do is you could have 3 houses set up and then say, all right, you have 1 hour to create this concept, and then people judge. And
I couldn't do it. My design process is I tab out for like an hour, and then I come back and I move a wall just a fraction, and then I leave again.
Same here, but like with a few days apart, or like maybe weeks.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that competition. You'd just have to like hand me the prize every time. I'm about the only person that's actually like quick.
Yeah, it just really depends on your a motivation in that case. Like seeking something to do, wanting to create something specific, or it just really depends what you want to do. Because sometimes you just for me, for example, is like I need those creative bursts where I'm like, hey, this could look good after looking at a picture on Pinterest or like ArtStation or something like that. Yeah. But it sometimes it really is just not hitting that spot for me, like for like a month, and I come back after an entire month, and I'm like firing away all of those ideas I collected over that time, and like I finish in one day, even though I haven't touched it in a month. For example, this is what happens to me a lot personally.
It has to be in retrograde, and the weather has to be a certain way.
It's like it's one of those things.
Yeah,
that's fair. Okay, so I do want to ask, obviously you've all seen tons of different house designs and layouts and everything else. I do want to know, what are some of the most interesting ones that you guys have seen people come up with?
Can I take this question? Because
everyone's going to take this question, so you can take it first.
He was burning for this one.
Yeah. I really am burning for this one. So like pretty much the entirety of Japan the last like 6 months have been on like absolute fire with like just weird stuff. So it's like I will drop a name. Soryu Yamato. He pretty much doesn't build actual houses at this point. He does little concepts. He did his little tiny Lalafell house thing recently. Like, it was just a small house with like a little garden inside a house. He does his doll houses where, it's like the 3 tiers and you can see all the rooms you're looking from the side. You got people doing like that basketball court we saw.
That was fucking
Like,
sick.
yeah,
I love that.
the alien planet. They did like 2 of those. Those were like really cool. It's these odd concepts that are things that I absolutely love now. The things which have nothing to do with a house. It's just like, here's these building blocks and just make this random thing. All that stuff is just, I absolutely love it.
Okay.
Yeah. I do agree that it's like those very creative things that you would not expect in a house where you were supposed to have like a bed or a kitchen or something, and you just have like an icy cave, for example. That was like one of the more impressive things that I've seen recently. Like I mentioned before, I really like the things that look very good in the context of 14, like the immersive things. Like this could be in Eorzea. This is the stuff that I like the most. Like this is my shit right there. But when I see someone create an ice cave from the, I think this was even before the actual winter event where we actually got the walls, and it was all made out of rectangular partitions, and they used blue lights to imitate this frozen floor and stuff like that. When I see that kind of stuff, that's just like, I could have never come up with that just
Art.
with the items we have.
Yeah.
It is true art in my opinion. Like
Totally.
it's something so unique. It's not always supposed to be a cozy place for you to rest, as like we mentioned before, like a warrior of light coming home. Sometimes I want just to, like right now I'm working on a mineshaft entrance with just like dirty broken pipes and shit like that. Stuff like that is just the best thing ever, where you can just feel like you are in a place where there's so much thought behind it, where it's like small cracks in a hidden corner somewhere, or like recently I've been at a place where an art party was hosted, for example, where it's like a little hole in the floor, like as if it's like a cave in a very overgrown forest, for example. And those kind of details where you have to explore a build and look at every single thing, from the lighting, where the light actually puts the focus on, if there's like a small piece of metal lying on the floor in the corner, like, you wouldn't see it for the first time, but if you are standing in the center of a room and you look everywhere, if you just turn around, like I think this was what Ashen said last time. I think it was one of your favorite movie things, right? Where it's like your eye is always being kept busy. You are always looking at something interesting. You can pick up on that in a second, because this is like a thing that I've never considered before. Just being able to look around and experience something new that you didn't notice at the beginning. Just that high level of detail and immersion is just like, that's my favorite part about housing and design.
There's
Wait, I think oh, go ahead.
Okay, mine was quick. It's just some people just straight up make art, like actual art though. Like, because we have this kind of term within the community of like screenshot builds, where, you know, it looks really good in pictures, but it's not for walking around in. But some people have just done some really cool like single angle stuff to take pictures of, where you look at it and you're just like, damn. Like you just, you know, you lose your reaction. I love like everything that isn't actually a house that's done well is just, I'm all about it.
Same, actually. Yeah, that is my thing right there. Yeah.
Like the I don't really have any houses off the top of my head, but I do like when people do kind of memes sometimes. I love this Korean guy. He did a scene from Community where the guy's walking back in with the pizza and everything's on fire.
Yes.
He copied it exactly. Use it, like, it was so funny. And we did the casting couch once.
The casting couch?
We were like, I think it was a time where the oblong windows came out, like the long ones that go sideways, and we wanted to create something. What was it called again?
We wanted like some shutters.
The shutters, yes. And we just needed to present it in some interesting way. And I remembered, hey, there is shutters in the background of the casting couch meme picture. And we were like, hey, guys, if you want to make something like that, here's that. And we didn't reference it, but it was just the casting couch with the shutters in the background. It was so much fun.
I posted it to Twitter on the HGXIV account, and people are just commenting like, sus. You know what he did.
Yeah, but it was great. That's like making memes, like recreating memes in housing. Who would have thought that it would come this far? Honestly,
I mean, we also got
so funny.
We've got that. I think it's the Japanese guy at the moment who makes all these top-down faces and stuff, right? Yeah, someone made
some-
like Donald
oh, God.
Trump the other day, and someone made like a giant piece of like battered fish.
I
was
saw.
so
Oh my
cute.
god.
Love that.
That's absolutely insane. And you know, I do want to. Hopefully, no one asks you to rent out the casting couch room after.
Oh, we tore it down immediately. It has been used. It has been used way too much, so we had to like tear it down at some point.
Okay. So, I mean, talking about all these different things that people are making, it sounds absolutely insane and super complex. So I guess my question here is, how do you even measure any of this stuff? How do you even make this stuff work? Do you have like a blueprinting program that you use to make it work?
I wish.
We wish.
I goddamn wish. Yeah. It's a tough question actually. Like, it depends what kind of person you are when you're building. Some people plan out on paper. Like, I do write notes like when I'm at work and I have like a random like idea. I just write it down on paper and like sketch it out, and then maybe it works. 90% of the time it doesn't. But you just gotta think about it for a second. But sometimes people just go into the game. They have like nothing there, and they're like, "Hey, I want to make something based on a single item," like we did with a typewriter back then, Ashen, right? Like we made a typewriter out of like of a cashier of a register and like a hink and scroll, and Ashen made an entire build around this single item back in the day.
I'm not a half measure person.
Yeah, it was great. Like, this is the kind of stuff that some people do. The creative process is always different for people. Some start with one item, some start with an entire concept, some build with frame and then fill it out, or sometimes they fill it out first, like I do.
Yeah, this is quite a deep question in the scheme of things, because it's a question we get asked quite constantly in the community. It's like, hey, I'm pretty new. How do I go about starting to design a house? I don't know how to do it. And yeah, as Div was saying, there's like about 1 million different approaches. You know, some people will just kind of build as they go. So they'll make a little corner, and then the wall that comes off that corner, then the next wall, and they'll kind of just work around the house bit by bit with no like solid plan before. People will draw it out, or some people who are absolutely insane, like me, will make a mental blueprint that turns out to be nearly entirely correct, and so I'll just sit down and knock it out in about 2 seconds.
Humble
but
brag, yeah.
It's not a humble brag. It's not good for me, because I am so. If I have to deviate from it because I got it wrong, I just sit there and I'm just like, I don't know what to do now. But it's also a lot of like, you learn the items, right? So you learn like X item is this big and I can put it this way, and so when you're starting to think about things, you can kind of build that idea of proportions in your head.
You say that, but I constantly get things wrong all the time. Like, all the time.
You're getting used to it at some point, because if you work with just a limited set of items, you know how big they are and like, you know, the connections between the different furniture pieces. So you can, after you've built quite a lot, think in your head, hey, is this gonna work without even experimenting with it? You're gonna be like, hey, this could actually look good, but you have to check in game, and sometimes you can already cross that idea out because obviously it's not gonna work because you know that it's too big or too small, for example.
And you also have glitch limitations. Like, let's say you build a sofa, and you're like, okay, I'll put this wall item because it's perfect, but then you actually have a wall next to it, so you can't, because the wall will naturally attract that wall item. And you have to build with that in mind as well. The system is constantly fighting you.
Yes, it is, yeah. Because everything we're doing, we're not meant to do half the time, right? But
I won't even say half the time, like the majority of the time too.
But also, just kind of for the record, if we're talking about measuring, some people have made blueprints that are like, you know, an actual map of the house, and it's measured in like single partition kind of widths, because, you know, every partition is the same width. And so there are some people who will like take that little blueprint and kind of sketch it on there. Like that is a thing that does happen.
Okay.
We do even talk in intervals, like, hey, this is like one Rivera wall shelf too low. Like, we do have like certain items that indicate lengths or measurements that we use as a reference to, and we do make quite a few jokes based on that actually. Like, you got to float this one shelf up. Basically.
Yeah, we've definitely built our own kind of terminology in terms of like sizings for these kind of things. So, as he was saying, you know, because you can measure in pixels, but
Yeah.
Most of us don't.
And you can't rely on the bird snap in this game.
Unless it's me and Div randomly measuring in pixels and getting it completely right.
Usually our talk is
Somehow.
also. Usually our talk is also like, hey, can you give me the thingy, McJig, from back there? And she's like, oh, you want the left thingy or the right thingy? And I'm like, yes. And she knows what I mean.
Yeah, they make fun of me because they can just describe like a room, and I'll know exactly the picture and who made it, and I don't see it.
You just recognize certain patterns, I guess. It's just a thing that you usually do with I think if you can think in 3D, it's really helpful, because we had the discussion about you know how some people are not able to imagine things? Like if you say, hey, imagine a red apple, they can't think of something. Like it's just a blank in their head. But other people can describe you what the texture is, what the lighting is, and stuff like that. And I think having the possibility to just envision it in your head is just helpful, like very helpful.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Now, I do want to say, you all were talking about like maybe a commission a month, maybe you build a house a month, maybe you build a house every 3 months, every 6 months. I'm hoping, I don't know, how long does it actually take you to do the house? Is it a month-long process, or is it like something you knock out in a few days?
Well, for me, I started taking commissions again, and I stopped for a very long time. So I'm just trying to get back into it again. And I find I operate very slow. And it's much just for me. I don't want to rush. Sometimes I want to log in the game and I don't want to design. I want to go do my dailies.
Right.
I want to just, and luckily people are very understanding about that. But for me, I take about 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
I'm slow. When I compare myself to other people, I find myself to be slow. But then again, it's like, well, I'm putting a lot of effort and work into this, and I assume the person's going to be happy.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say about 3 to 4 weeks, and that's just for clients. I find if I'm building for myself, I'm a lot faster because I know what I want.
That's fair. So is there like a process to it? Like you say, all right, here's the idea. Here's what I have as a quick concept. They come and review it, and they tell you to change a few things, or how does that process work?
I'm still refining the process. Because again, I'm kind of new to commissions. I know I've been designing for a long time, but I find myself giving kind of I'm big into Tumblr and the whole Tumblr mood stuff. So I'll send them like pictures of like flowers. Like, what do you feel about this? And I'm just
cryptic. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get like a mood going.
Right.
I don't really go for concepts because the game has its limitations. You can't just copy from a picture. Right. I like to just make stuff. I don't want to go off of a predetermined thing. And so it is a little bit difficult when I share concepts with people. But for the most part, people understand me. And I always share like WIP, and sometimes I'll have to change something, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's a pretty easy process of just sharing pictures. But I am very cryptic. I'm so sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. I mean, do you have people who come to you and are just like, hey, just make me something that looks cool. I'm not going to give you anything. Just good luck.
I wish. No one does.
It happens occasionally, right?
I mean, not for me.
But I guess I could go into that because I actually, when I do commissions, I only take commissions where people do exactly that. Where they say, hey, you want to come up with something, you have an idea in mind or something, I just want something cool made by you or something. And this is what I take up then. I'm saying, okay, I need this item. I'm just basically not taking money myself, usually. Mm-hmm. It really depends on the person who I'm talking with, because I'm a bit shy on that side when it comes to sharing my ideas and stuff like that. Okay. Especially because I changed my ideas like 1,000 times in a build. Like I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna do a back alley, and then the next day I'm gonna be like, okay, this is gonna be a medieval shop now.
Yes.
Stuff like that. And when it comes to the building process itself, it's like when I have an idea and it works out immediately, I've created a build in like 2 days. But in the meantime, I created a build of same degree of detail in 3 months. And but what I'm working on right now, I've been starting. I started 6 months ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
But because like there's always those creative bursts, like I mentioned before, that you have, and if you are at a point, especially when it comes to art too, where you are just like you have this art block. And the same goes for housing too. If you are just having this creative block, you can't create anything, even though you want to. And in my opinion, if you force yourself to create something, it's not going to work. It never works for me. I always have to be in kind of an inspired mood, because otherwise it will feel like I'm just doing it half-ass or something. I'm just finishing it because I want to get it done. And it just feels awful if I want to get something done in a time limit. So whenever I talk to a client, I'm like, hey, I know this is going to sound weird, but I can't really tell you when it's going to be done. I can roughly tell you, but it might change due to me changing ideas or something like that. So it really depends on both the person commissioning you and you as a person who does the commission. Because I know some people who like fire a build out every week or two. But I also know people who but I also know people who, like me, just really built very rarely. Or like we built a lot. Like we sink so much hours into this, but it never translates. It doesn't always translate into a finished build. Like I can sit in this house for like 6 hours, and I can come out of this 6-hour session with nothing, because I just experimented. I wanted to see if it works. It doesn't. I cancel it. I tear it down. And I know that many people do that. They create something and they tear it down all over every single fucking time. Like I know people who did it, who spent an entire day just tearing down stuff because it didn't work. And I think it's important to know yourself when it comes to this. Like, am I able to create something? Did I already prepare this? Maybe I built this already, and this person wants me to rebuild this. This is also a possibility. Some people want that, which I personally can't agree with. Like, I want to create something new. I just want to make something unique for that person. That's like my take on it. But then, if it's something entirely unique, well, you sink a lot of time into that. And
just real quick, you said 6 months. How many hours? So, if we're going to translate that and say how many hours of those 6 months did you actually spend on it, what would that get close to?
The house isn't finished even by like 50%. I've probably sunken something like, if I would translate it into real numbers, 50 hours.
50 hours. Okay.
That's not
because it's like if you have entire creative freedom and you can do whatever you want, you can easily just lose yourself and just spend way too much time on it. You just look at the clock, like you started at 11 p.m. and then suddenly it's 5 a.m. because you just wanted to see if you can float a thing through a floor for like an hour.
Well, I have a question then, because this brings something up that I often think about, and it's: are you a designer or are you a commissioner? Because often with commission work, I find people can do it very, very fast, but are they getting that kind of like creative script I know when I make things, I want it to be unique and kind of just different. I spend a lot of time on it. But when I build for myself, I can build really fast. But when it comes to commission work, you have to make something for that person. What are you getting at? Like, what value are you getting out of it?
I guess
I find that interesting, because I basically take the same time regardless of what I'm doing, whether it's a commission or my own house. So I'm going to have to go on a tangent there, because there's kind of two questions on the table here, right?
Sure,
which is like how long does it take, and then we were talking about kind of like commission process stuff. I'm the kind of person who times myself. I do. So depending on the size of house, I'm between like 20 to 40 working hours. I would pretty much say I'm always pretty much strictly to that. It tends to be more towards the upper end of it if it's like a big house, because if it's a large house and there's 400 slots, I'll probably 380 of those slots are glitched. But I kind of approach everything the same way, and I think the kind of thing of commissioner versus designer thing definitely does exist, because there are people that will just sit down and just do commissions for the sake of doing commissions, make gil, but there are also people that do commissions for the sake of creating. See, when I approach a commission, obviously Ashen was talking about like kind of sending references, and you're talking about like, whether you build up concepts and stuff. I just kind of walk in and I'm like, give me a theme. So they give me a theme, and then I say, pick 3 items. And by that, I mean, like, you can have a bedroom, you can have a bathroom, you can have a kitchen. You get 3. That's it. Pick your 3 you want, because I don't have the item slots to do more than that. So you give me your 3 main features and a theme, and then you can go sit outside the house for 2 weeks, maybe, or 2 days.
Don't let them come in at all.
know.
Like they just can't come in while you're in your design process.
You lock it out. You lock them out of their own house.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of in this kind of camp where it's like, if you're hiring me, you should be hiring me because you're hiring me. It's not because you want to get your house just designed generally. You wanting to get your house designed by me. So if you're getting it designed by me, you should trust me to kind of make the decisions and give you the best house that I think I can.
I agree with that.
Yes.
So generally, I don't. If I'm designing a house for someone, I don't want them over my shoulder. In fact, I will explicitly say, like, you're not being over my shoulder. I will quite happily turn down a commission at like a moment's notice because they'll say something to me where I'll go, well, this isn't going to work the way I want it to. Because to me, it's also it's not about Gil. It's not about like what I get from making the commission. I want to create, and I want to give you the best thing I can. And if you're getting in the way of me giving you the best thing I can, then it's just not going to work.
I think for the 3 of us, like, I know some people are like, hey, I'm doing this as like a profitable thing. Like, I want to make some Gil. I'm gonna create whatever you want with like whatever I can do, right? But when it comes to being creative and like we are also doing it, obviously we are people who are getting commissioned. Obviously you want to expect that someone who commissions you knows what kind of stuff you create and they want something like that, right? But it's also like your creative freedom. Like, how much are you gonna sacrifice of your own creative freedom to satisfy the client? And then in the end, for me personally, it's also like that. If I can't really if a client has too much to say, even though it's their own house, it sounds so silly to some degree, right? Like, it's their house. Obviously, they want something that they are gonna see all of the time because it's inside their house. But are you as a designer going to be happy? And are you going to be happy to say, I'm proud of this build, I post this in my portfolio for other future things, for references. And you're just going to put it there like, hey, you know what? I'm not really happy because I was limited. I had to obey to whatever the client wanted. And you're just sitting there like, I'm not going to use this in my portfolio, even though you spent so much time on it. And initially you had an amazing idea and you were so proud of it. But you had either to limit yourself to like a room that they wanted to add or something, or like them being like, hey, I know this is a great build of yours, but can you add another room? Because it's a large or something. And this is something that I'm experiencing a lot too, where it's like, hey, you saw my builds. You know I'm not building on a large surface. I know I built those cluttered, detailed rooms. And then they want like a large hall or something. And then I'm like, why did you not look into other designers then?
Exactly.
It's awful.
That's exactly it with commissioner versus designer. Like, if you should, if you are a designer, as it is, you and your client both need to be really proud and really happy of what it is. So as much as I can say, like, oh, I'll just, fuck someone off, it's not because they've annoyed me. It's because, like, the end result isn't going to be what it should be. Both people need to be walking away from this really happy, proud of what's there, want to show it off. There shouldn't be any sort of room to be like, oh, but, you could kind of change this, you could kind of... That shouldn't be in the question.
I mean...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ashen, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I find myself wanting to take commissions in a way to help resolve issues, especially if it's like a technical thing. I enjoy figuring out techniques. And I've taken commissions on that sounds like silly. I remember, 2 years ago? With mediums, with space limitations, you normally cut off the basement and the top floor, and you just keep the middle floor. And this guy wanted 2 floors, but the staircase of a medium stairwell is so ugly. If you have custom walls, and you're over there in like Goblet, and you have the sandstone, it's going to clash. So I took that on because I wanted to figure out how to make a seamless kind of wall, and I did. I made a seamless like a stairwell, and it was just so big for me, and I just was so happy that I was able to overcome that. But then I took that on with the idea, hey, I know this is going to be a really big issue. When I am designing and I have to suddenly, like, everything's done and I've shown the entire process with somebody, and then they're like what Div said, can you add this? Can you change that? But it's already done. That's when it gets really exhausting.
Or when they change things. This is like the worst thing, and I know that. I think at this point, every designer like doing commissions has experienced it to some degree, where either the client moves something or they change something afterwards. And imagine being an artist, being able to finish an art piece and then giving it to the client, and then they recolor the hair because they didn't like it initially.
I've got a better example. It's like you hand someone the Mona Lisa and they're just gonna go, "Oh, this is lovely," and they draw a mustache on it.
That basically is kind of like, obviously you want them to feel happy there, but imagine what we do in the housing community is we visit a lot of houses, right? Like we just don't want to see pictures and videos. We want to experience it in person. We visit a lot, right? And then it's suddenly the entire door or wall that you worked so hard on moved suddenly. What are you as a designer gonna feel like depending on that? Because it's like, it looks much worse. Obviously, it's subjective, right? But what are you gonna do? It's their house. They already paid you. It's in theory, it's a finished commission.
Yeah, you take your pictures and you're done, right?
Yeah, at this point you already have. We learned from experience that you always take pictures before you give it to the client.
Yes.
It's like an unwritten rule, and we all follow it at this point.
Oh yeah, and you send them big contracts first as well.
Yeah, you just gotta, you gotta fill out this here, put your signature there. It's like a big list you gotta do. No, I'm just kidding.
So
never do that.
You guys, everyone here is. It sounds like kind of on the forefront of this whole new emerging scene of working with people in the game and designing stuff. And it's, I'll admit, Final Fantasy XIV and working with people and treating online players as clients, you have no clue what you're going to get. You could be getting someone who's 12 years old and has no maturity to them at all, and they have absolutely no understanding of basic, customer service, right? Working with other people. Or you could get someone completely on the opposite side of the spectrum or someone between, and you have no clue who you're dealing with. You just have this kind of virtual avatar name and your interactions with them and how they're interacting with you. So it is kind of interesting knowing that you're going to have such a varied reaction. There's nothing you control. It almost sounds like you all have had plenty of bad experiences with clients.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Tell me, if you wouldn't mind, is there any horror stories you would want to share?
Ashen, you go first. I know.
Oh, come on, guys. Okay. I'm usually the one with the worst experience.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, I know when I first started out, I had this weird rule about myself, like, I was learning, so I wasn't going to take much money, and I just had no self-esteem about it. But this one time, I knew this guy, and he was like, hey, design my FC. I've seen your work. You're really good. So I was like, oh, this is great. This will help me because I really want to, work on stuff. So I did, and I did the FC exactly how he wanted, and he added, a chair and decided he wasn't going to pay me the rest because he decorated. And he gave me wind shards.
What?
Yeah.
Biggest BM move ever. Holy shit.
And that was after that. You take this, and it's a learning lesson. I learned after that. Ask for more up front, and everything is a learning lesson because there have been times where I've completely changed a house to how they want, and I'll come back later and just days later, and an entire wall's gone. And it just kind of, it's odd to me to...
If I had to put in some input there, I would say absolutely, I'm sure you all are familiar with this, that you should always be taking almost, my personal opinion, all money up front. All of it, even though you could do half and half, you could do other things. But the thing is, you are all known and have a reputation and have some sort of trust there. This is a random person you don't know. They could do anything.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm a lot better about that. Money,
Yeah.
the guild exchange is a lot more like, hey, this is how it's gonna be.
Right.
I'm lucky that I'm in that position, but it doesn't stop me from going back to a design days later, and it's like completely changed.
Yeah.
So
For-
then,
Go ahead,
Continue.
Ash, or whoever. I don't know.
well, it's like what Synt said earlier. Like, you're commissioning because you should know how this person works. Why weren't you happy with it? You know?
Mhm.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I put a lot of effort. Effort's probably the wrong word into like my initial discussions and conversations with people because I've kind of come from like out before kind of housing. I've done lots of stuff of like dealing with clients, and I was also like around tattoo artists for a very long time. So I kind of took like how they approach things with me a bit. So I'll get like pretty much all the money up front, or like 50-50 if I like know one of their friends. So like, if something goes wrong, I'll hold them accountable for it. But I'll have like these hour-long conversations with people. I'll make sure to have like personal conversation. I'll kind of lay the land of exactly how it is, and then I'll be like, okay, yep, this is solid. And then people will still kind of do stuff. They'll sit there. I've had clients randomly move stuff around in between my build days, which didn't go very well because also I just pretty much at that point said, if you do this again, I'm gonna stop working on your house, and you've already given me the money. But like
Yeah.
our reputation as designers or whatever doesn't mean anything in this landscape. It means nothing.
I agree with that. Like,
If anything, I honestly believe that sometimes it puts a bigger target on our back because then people go, oh, but you're so and so. You should be able to give me exactly what I want, and this one tiny thing here wasn't. So I don't want to pay you now.
Yeah.
yeah, I have a big contrast for that because I never do commissions for people I don't know usually, because I only work with friends or people I've known for a while, and they have been coming up to me saying, "Hey, can you do something for me? Like, I can pay you. Like, that's fine." And so, most of the time, I don't even take money, just out of just the fact because it's
You write
either
that
on a different
down,
data
Do
center.
not take money. Oh, go ahead.
No, it just really depends. Like, as I say, if you have the creative outlet that they provide money for you to build, honestly, I'm just at the point where I'm like, hey, hell yeah, dude, let me just do whatever with your money. I don't have to use my own house for that. I don't have to spend my own gil. So that's kind of a win for me. But it just depends because when I do commissions for people I don't know that well, as Ashen said, I really question them a lot, and I honestly befriend them because I think it is it just doesn't feel as like contract based anymore. It feels
Totally
like
agree.
a very passionate thing. Like you are like, hey, tell me about your OC because like right now I have a commission in plans for a friend where he's also gonna pay me, and he's like, so this is the character, this is what their story is, this is how they where they live and how they live, and based on that, I'm like, hey, yo, this is such a cool idea. Want me to make something like this, then? And they're both like screaming at each other, yeah, like fuck yeah, dude, let's do this. And like this is the kind of energy I want between a commissioner and me. This is why I don't really do like paid commissions with strangers because I fucking hate people. Like you said, like you said, in an online MMORPG community, especially in the western part, people are dicks. Like they can be awful. They can change things around, like Synt said, and you gonna warn them? That's cringe. I don't want to have that experience at all. So I just do it with friends like that.
Slight flip side though about people changing stuff. Like it is their house. Like so you can only ever get so angry about it. But if it's in the middle of what you're doing, you kind of just have to be like,
no, if it's in the middle of what you're doing, it's reckless. Yeah, that's horrible.
I mean, the thing with commissions though, like it's kind of Div was saying, he wants them to be his friends. Like my best commission experience, like the dude I did it for still talks to me every single day. Like that's why I do commissions, right? I don't do it to make the guild. I do it because I want to create, and I also want someone who really wants like a good house. I want to be able to give them that house. I want them to have that thing they wanted and be really happy with it.
Yeah, for myself, I actually don't take much gil compared to a lot of my peers.
So let's talk about that real quick. How much gil are we talking about? Because we haven't mentioned any numbers or anything. Is that something you guys feel comfortable talking about?
Yeah,
I mean,
I could share.
Okay.
I don't mind.
Well, I don't want you to set a price for yourself in the future. Maybe a range of like how much you've done it. You've done it for free for friends, I'm assuming, and trying to work and learn. And then what's a really high range that we're talking about?
I have offered a quote on a large house on a Japanese server at over 140 million.
Okay, that's a
and
decent.
That is to also account for me having to transfer characters to move the guild back to where it is. It's a variable scale. I don't do fixed rates. I'm quite busy, so I put a value on my time.
Yeah.
In the best way to put it. You want to talk numbers? I've done small houses for 10 million. I've done small houses for 30 million. I've done large houses for 40 million. I've done large houses for 90 million.
You guys are going too cheap. It should be like max guild. As much as you can hold on your characters, probably the price range you're looking at.
The thing is, like, there's also a point of, because obviously everyone else has prices, right? Mm-hmm. So you might have this designer who, none of us really know them, but their portfolio's there, and in there they say they do small houses for 3 million, medium houses for 8, large houses for 15. And so when it comes to you kind of putting a price on it, it's how much do you think your time is worth and your skill is worth versus like what's the current market out there? Because I could sit here and go, you know what, I'm worth 400 million to do a large house.
Yeah.
But if someone who in my eyes is like a really good designer is offering it for 40 million, no one's ever going to pay me that, and nor should they.
Yeah, that's totally right. Like, it personally, I don't like to look at the market and go like, hey, so they're using this kind of pricing for that, so I'm gonna be in that range, because in some form you're also like, as said, you trying to check what your time is worth. And if you look at it, like we mentioned before, I think when you asked me, for example, how much time I've spent on a house, like I've spent 50 hours on a house and I haven't done shit. Is that going to count as something that you count? Is this going to be something you count for in the end price or something like that? So it's just like you just research the market, what other people ask, but it still feels wrong in my opinion. So this is why I feel not as comfortable anymore with taking price commissions as much. Like I did a mid house for 20 million. I did a small house for 10 million. I did a small house for 1 million and a cheeseburger for my friend because I know him in real life.
Oh, okay. That cheeseburger's good, man.
Hey, it was the best cheeseburger of my life. I can't say anything to that. And then obviously there's the big ones that are my largest projects that I've spent the most time on, and they've been entirely for free. And it's just such a difference in between. First of all, what did you make? Can you be proud of it? How much time obviously have you spent on it? How good are you with a person you're doing it for? If it's like a friend, like fuck it, I'll just do it, man. I like you. I want to create something nice for you.
Everybody be friends with Div. Just become friends.
God.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, if they're fine with like leaving their house like half finished or half empty for like a month
6 months, a year.
A month.
Go for it.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Like, if we talk about people like Tori, holy shit, my man, I'm sorry, but it just really do be like that sometimes.
So
yeah, see, I'm kind of like Div in that regard. Like, I don't ask for a lot of gil, honestly. I hear it a lot, like, oh, someone of your caliber, Ashen. But it's not about the money, really. I just want the design to be a certain way, and for someone to be happy with it.
I mean,
I make more money off of the market board, honestly. At the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not a crafter. If I need money, I will be like, hey, I did this house, and do you want me to make something for you? Sometimes it's even like that. Sometimes you come up to people and say, hey, I want to make this for you for like 10 million. Are you okay with that? And they're like, fuck yes. That's good.
Yeah.
I made money for my next house.
Out of the three of us here, I'm probably the one most willing to like kind of do commissions for Gil on a different data center. So because of that, like I have to price for that. I think I did a small at the end of last year where I was just in a mood to just like build, and I was just like, give me 2 million just to cover what I'm buying off the market board. That's it. Nothing more than that. It's what's going through your mind at the time, right?
yeah. No, I mean, if you're like, man, I just want to do stuff and I need someone to fund me to do it. I mean, I can see that point of view. I do wonder how the scene will grow in the future. I'm assuming that it will get past that point and it will be a lot less like you just have way too many commissions to deal with, and you need to put some value on your time. But I don't know.
I know people who've got wait lists like 5 months long, they say.
Yeah.
And then I also, me personally, I'll never book more than like 2 houses at once. I just don't want. I don't want to do it. I don't like leaving people kind of on hooks and stuff. I've either got openings or I don't.
It's stressful, you know.
It is.
Really
You
stressful,
feel because of the time that's involved. Because we can say, okay, this house is going to take 40 working hours, but also like, I've just took the commission on. I'm not going to start it for 5 days. So for those 5 days, I'm going to spend all my spare time thinking about this house. So then it's okay. So you've got to devote 2 weeks of your time to this house, but then you need to go into your next commission. So you've got to be thinking about the next one whilst you're doing the first one.
Yes.
But because you've booked 10, right? So you can't afford to have breaks between them. So you're always thinking about them. No.
Yeah.
It sounds so stressful. Like, I hear you stressed out just talking about it.
It's not worth the hit to your mental health at all.
I mean, and if we were really going to get into it, what's Gil for anyways, right? Like,
To fund more housing.
yeah.
To fund more. I was about to say I don't take money because all the housing I do is not at my own house. It's always other people's houses. I have an empty small house and nothing else.
Really?
Yeah, it is actually
Yes,
like
it's been empty for years.
Wow.
because I don't feel like oh god, this is gonna sound so fucking gross, but I don't like spending my own money for housing, so I'm decorating for others as a creative outlet. It's so sad, man.
Oh, jeez.
This
man.
guy, Div is the type of person who you'll like commission him, or even just in general, like asking to build something, and he'll ask for like 20 pieces of an item and never use it. It's not worth it, guys.
Wow.
Or leave it in the mailbox for literally a whole year.
Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, I remember that. There's like a few housing items I requested, and I found them on my alt like a year later. I feel very bad about this. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks because you're limited to what's in the game too. Like Gil is what you can get from commissions.
Yeah.
Because if we discuss even further than that, you can't get paid real life money for in-game services.
No,
Right.
massively against TOS.
Yeah.
You can't even buy an item off of MogStation with the intent to sell it for Gil.
Right.
That's against TOS.
So it's kind of it sucks to know that you can't really ambitiously. I mean, you could build a website, and that website could feature pictures that brings people in, and you could put ads on the website, and maybe that's the way to generate actual profit. But it sucks because you guys are putting so much work into everything you're doing, and the only thing that you can really get out of that is in-game Gil, which I guess you use on something.
That's
Well-
why we're moving on to OnlyFans for housing.
Yeah, it's basically that. Now we did think about like it is HGXIV is more of a passion project. It's something that we are all very passionate about. We love to do housing, and it's not something that we see as a sort of income, nor with. I mean, many people do actually. It's very interesting, but it always depends on what kind of person you are.
Right.
But for us personally, it was never about the income. It's always about the creativity behind the housing and having the community to talk about something like that. Because it started out as just nerds talking about something that no one else talked about. So we thought, like, why would that ever change? Obviously, with a website, maybe in the future, but it's not something that is going to be the focus of housing. And in my opinion, if you're doing housing to make a profit, what are you doing it for?
It doesn't
Like-
even. But the thing is, if you're literally sitting, I can't get my head around this mentality of the people that will just sit and do back to back commissions.
Yes.
Like
Like-
literally just non-stop commissions, post a house every single week, and they're taking Gil for it. What do you need that much Gil for? What are you doing?
Hey, you gotta need you need this money to spend on the RP bravels at some point.
Yeah, like, are you
Oh my
visiting
God.
clubs on Balmung? Is this what's going on here? Like,
Hey, yo,
you
they
don't
make
need that much Gil.
Dude, they make so much money, dude. Like, not even kidding. They make like 5 million for like an hour. Like, holy shit.
Why do you know this?
I had
Div,
someone
you're
ask.
so
I
sus,
had,
man.
I had a dude on Balmung ask me if I can build him a brothel. I wasn't sure. I was curious about it, and then he told me about how they actually make money of it. And I was like, what the hell, fuck? Maybe I'm in the wrong business, you know?
Yeah, e-brothels, you're just not doing not doing what they should be. But then again, what are they doing with the guild? Like in the end, it's just like excess guild just sitting around. You don't.
Hey, they gotta buy the 20 million hairstyle the first day.
It's a problem of guild bloat generally, right? Because we were talking earlier saying like houses are really expensive to like get, but they're not these days. Like you can get the 40 million for like a large pretty easily.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can find a large, it's not guild's
finding the
bloated
house
to
first,
hell.
yeah.
All the money I made in this game is either housing commissions or
you can't even burn your money on the market board now. You can get a full gathering set and pentameld it for like 5 mil.
I actually done that recently, and I still haven't leveled all of my crafters. I only have carpenter up for some furniture pieces, and that's it.
Right. So I guess I want to go into this next question a little bit here. Do you think that Square Enix had any idea that housing would get this insane?
No.
Absolutely fucking not.
Definitely not. I think they just... It's there for role-playing purposes. I think that was the original intent. Completely.
Yeah.
They just wanted it there so people could roleplay a little bit, have that house. I don't think they at all considered it being what it is now.
I'm gonna be honest. I think they introduced housing to, deal with instance congestion. In my opinion,
Honestly, yeah, they probably didn't want people AFKing in the cities. They're like, let's get them out of the city. If we put a market board and a bell right here, they might just come here.
Yeah, and I think this is like one of the reasons why they did it. Obviously, it's always a great feature, and no matter what MMORPG you play, if you have some degree of being able to create something custom, and especially if it's like a house or retreat, it's always a beneficial thing in an MMORPG for the longevity.
I'm just gonna argue with you and say, have you seen PSO2 housing?
Absolutely not, but I've seen...
It is no benefit to the game.
Hey, I've seen Elliscrott's online housing, and the game is... I don't want to say it's dead, right? But I've seen some ESO housing. That is pretty cool, actually.
Well...
It just really depends, yeah.
I don't know a lot about the other MMOs and their housing as much. I haven't had a lot of experience with it, but I'm just assuming Final Fantasy XIV is the best, at the moment, due to the creativity people like you are putting into it.
I think ESO's got a pretty strong housing scene.
It is because can't you like free play stuff? Actually, I'm not quite sure.
I think they have glitches as well, and I think they're somewhat similar to us, from what I understand.
Here's the issue: like, if you say did Square Enix anticipate housing becoming such a big thing? Initially, they just wanted you to place a sofa on the floor and not float it to use it as a door frame. So I don't think initially they didn't think much about it. They just wanted us to have something very simple and something easy to decorate. And if you look at other housing games, they don't have glitches like that. Like,
but I mean, they're not releasing items for the sake of the fact we can glitch. If that was the case, the sliding wall wouldn't exist in its current state. So I don't think their intent has changed with housing at all either since like the first iteration of it, let's say.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume their intention was, hey, we want to put housing in there, so it's just like a nice little place for people to go and make their own little space out of and have other people see it. And, we'll give them a sofa and they can put it in there, and then we'll have like little trophies. Oh, look at this cool thing he got for killing Ramu, and he got the rare drop. Now he's making it a part of his house and kind of showing off a little bit. And I think that was as far as they thought it would be taken.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is kind of fundamentally quite a social MMO, though, and I think that's entirely what that was. It was put in for the sake of being social. I mean, that's the whole game through and through. You wouldn't be able to sit on the bench in Limsa if it wasn't a social game.
Yeah,
or make tweets about people sitting on your bench in Limsa.
But yeah, it's just like they wanted something simple, but the community was the actual part that changed this entire thing.
The community made itself.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Definitely.
Like, Square Enix helped, as I mentioned before, like it definitely helped, like, at this point, like, now that we have so many items, and with each major patch we get, like, so many new items. It's even part of a life letter, which makes me happy. Which is still a thing. They just show off all of the new stuff, and we all get hyped for it, which is great. But I think it's how do I put that, actually? Actually, I think that might be a thing that we talk about later, too, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
I mean, either way. I am curious because I mean, a lot of the housing stuff that is done is through glitches. How do you think Square Enix feels about the glitches in the game?
They definitely know they exist, and I think
Yeah, they're aware.
They know.
They whether they can get rid of them or not, I think they're intentionally keeping them.
Yeah.
They definitely like I can say hand on heart, 100%. They know they exist. I've spoke to Square Enix members. They know they exist. I think they like it, but obviously it comes with risks. They've made changes. I think you two are probably more kind of fit to answer this question, but I think they've tried to maintain the integrity of it to allow it to stay.
Yeah, there were at some point, so there were like a few major changes they wanted to change in the past, like around Heavensward and Stormblood. For example, they really didn't like that people were able, due to the new glitching techniques, they didn't like that people were able to get into the void and built in the void even, because that caused issues. Obviously, you were not supposed to get in that area, and as we all know, they fix issues where you can actually glitch out of the map and stuff like that.
Right.
And they tried to patch that, and with that they fixed some other floating method that back in the day you weren't able to float anything really except tabletop items, because there wasn't a method that anyone knew about. We are not even quite sure how that with what patch it happened, or if it was there all along. But they tried to fix it. Didn't do shit. Didn't fix anything, but it made things easier for us, if anything. And they kind of noticed how we can bypass everything. People still build in the void, which they really don't want us to, and we really can't. We should never build in the void, because obviously the more attraction it gets, the worse the risk gets of them being like, "Hey, we told you to not do that. We tried to patch it. We let you guys have it for a second. You're still doing that. I'm gonna take that away from you."
Explain that real quick. What is the void?
Can I take this one, Div?
Yeah, you take that,
Please.
because Synt is like the technical expert on the void.
I've been quite involved with this recently in terms of conversations, because we have a whole thing going on with third-party programs in the community. So let me just explain this. The void is the area outside of the house box. If you can do it with conventional glitches we have. If you get yourself outside the house box, it's just this big black emptiness. The reason they made changes to do it is because people building stuff in the void was creating server stability issues and stuff like that. It's like why they changed the overlapping aquariums, the way it was like doing the calculation of the light with the glass. It's causing server issues. I guess it's technical talk time generally. So we have three major glitches, right? If we break it down, there's three major glitches. You have the float anything glitch, which now doesn't float anything because of slanted walls, but that's neither here nor there. We have the tabletop glitch, and we have storage placement. The float anything glitch is primarily what allows void building to still exist, because even without third-party tools, you can always go up. So the reason we have a issue with third-party tools is because they are... I'm just going to talk about it because I've seen people kind of saying that members of the community being against it is like moral grandstanding, when that's really not the case. The glitches as they exist are glitches. Square definitely knows about them. I think they'd like to keep them, but their hands might get forced, as they were before with void building. Third-party tools are allowing kind of placement of items in a way that isn't allowed normally, so it definitely interacts with the game in a very different way from ACT, and people are using that to build in the void. So that does put what we have at risk, because at a certain point their hand might get forced.
Right. Could you imagine, like, just like one day they just kill all floating glitches, everything that you guys can do, and then
it would kill the housing community.
That's a thought that has been in my head a lot very recently. I don't know how active you are on Twitter with some things, but we had a lot of things going on with people doing floating gardens and stuff like that. A GM actually got involved with something, which was kind of like the first time we'd seen it with like confirmation. Got involved with someone doing stuff in their garden, and they were like, get rid of it. So I've actually been making efforts myself to try and have a conversation with Square as to like, what can we do to like preserve what we have? Because if they took all those glitches away, the amount of stuff we kind of lose is insane. It's going to go back to put item down. And you can probably slap a few things together to make a toilet still, but that's going to be about it. I mean, I can say personally myself, I've said it before, I'll continue to say, if they did it, I'd probably just walk away. I'd probably just be done. I like the creative aspect. I like the technical side. I really like the technical side. I would just be done. And so...
I mean, a better way for them to fix it is instead of maybe making a glitch, they just allow you to do floating, free space stuff.
Exactly. I think that's like the big thing the community probably wants at this point. I personally really like doing the floating. It takes a really long time, but I enjoy like the kind of the challenge of it. Yeah. But even I would say put a Z-axis in the game. Just do it. Put a Z-axis in the game. But they probably also need to like completely rebuild how houses work. Because if you put a Z-axis in the game, you need to make sure people can't actually just go straight up into the void.
Right.
But here's like the thing with it, like the way Ashen mentioned, the issue with like a third-party tool coming into play is if it becomes too much of an issue and people notice it, obviously, they will have to do something about it. Think back on Sophia and the world first ultimate clear of T, right? Yeah. How they use the waymarks, they noticed that partially that PP worked there, and they placed the waymarks automatically. They changed they introduced an entire system based on that, because it just wasn't a thing that is supposed to happen. Now, glitches, on the other hand, are also not a thing that are in theory supposed to happen. And then when a third-party tool comes into play here, and it's also causing issues for the server, the waymarks were at least something that is only just a beneficial thing for the players, but it's kind of cheating if you look at it from a pure developer standpoint, right? But it also causes issues for the servers, like we said, if a void building there it causes server instability, and in being able to place something in outside your garden on other people's plots, or like in areas where they shouldn't be able to, it can create many issues. If they fix that, they would have to overhaul the thing. It would be a good thing, in my opinion. If it's very scary, because it's either they ruin the entire thing for us, or they fix everything we wanted for us. Honestly, I don't want to risk it. I'd rather just have everything as we have right now, but we really, really need that the access movement, because this is like something that every other thing has. The creation kit from Bethesda has it. I think someone mentioned that ESO, like Elder Scrolls Online, actually has the access movement. It would improve the game so much, but as Synt mentioned, they would have to take precautions to prevent you from void building still.
The thing is, as well, it's needed for the longevity of the housing scene, because I mean, there's like twofold reasons for this. I think people can generally agree that like Square Enix have been pretty lax with pretty much everything, like third party and like mod wise. They've been pretty lax. Obviously, their stance is starting to change. As housing is now, and the fact that some people are getting more and more complex and doing all these ridiculous things with it, it's kind of inadvertently pushing up kind of the barrier for entry in a way. Because, I mean, it's easier to get into housing, but there's all these glitches and stuff. But when you see this stuff and people have done these insane things, and you look at it and go, I want to do that, and then you find out how to do that, I kind of understand why some people have turned to third-party tools to do it. But and that putting things at risk isn't good. So we need to, for longevity, these things have to be implemented, because it's only going to take so long before Square do just with some things go, that's it, that's too far. As Div was saying, waymarkers, it's too far. You can automate your combat using certain plugins for like ACT and stuff.
Hell, it still works. That's the thing. That's the worst part about it. Like, they tried to fix the issue, but it still works.
Yeah. It's definitely goofy, and it's a whole tricky situation that will be an ongoing conversation for the rest of the life of the game when we talk about third-party tools in Final Fantasy XIV. And I do think that I don't want them, if they get rid of like the glitches, you get rid of that creative outlet for a lot of different people. if they don't put our solution in there. That's 100% obvious. And I do want to comment real quick. A lot of people are saying people play the game just for housing, right? That's all they do. And you mentioned that as well. Like, you just kind of leave. My wife owns a house in the game. She never logs in. She stays subscribed only to keep the house.
Yeah, Square Enix would very shoot themselves in the foot if they would get rid of that.
I think it's so much more than just housing, but Square Enix kind of have this onus on them at this point to kind of look at why people are using third-party stuff for so many different things and kind of go, well, if we want to stop this, we probably need to give them some of this instead of just trying to just take stuff away. People are doing this for a reason. I don't expect them to ever put like a damage log in, but like, can you put in like a better system for like hunts? Yeah. Can you put in the housing glitches as a Z-axis? Yeah, you can. You definitely can. Like, I don't know. It's on Square.
Yeah.
I would really like to have some kind of conversation or feedback with Square Enix, not gonna lie. Like, I would really love to be able to, because we know Square Enix prefers JP. It's always like that. It's like their home. Like, they will always listen to them more than we do. Like, hell, Yoshi P visited the biggest, like, sorry, he visited him. And he saw what he's capable of. But it's the communication between the actual, like, the developers and the Western community. It's just not there. You aren't able to leave feedback on that. I would love to see the implementation of, for anything, honestly. I would love to see people be able to send feedback to Square Enix based on a certain niche of a game. Like, I would like to send people. I would like people to send ideas on how to improve PvP, how to improve queue times and rewards.
Well, to say this. Sorry, just quickly. Like, are you aware that like the forums exist? Because they exist and you can post a thread in there, but how many people are actually aware of that?
There's not a lot of people who use the forums over in NA, and maybe EU either. I don't think it's mostly a JP thing that they do use the forums often, and they do use Lodestone for a lot of things. They do blog posts on Lodestone on the JP side of everything. The communication is definitely different, and so when we get into like, you know, if they have a preference for a region, they have a preference to doing business and making money, even if it's in different regions. The thing is, I think what happens for information and opinions from the NA and EU side, and this is all my opinion, I don't really have any real evidence of anything, but you basically, you have all the Western and EU side, they have to go through a filter. They have to go through the community teams, respectively, and then over to the JP side. Because it's not just there in face value. Now, the JP side of it, they could just look at it. They don't have to have things translated. They don't have to like have these concepts or anything go through this whole process to get to them, because they just look at the forums if they want to, or they look wherever the news sites or whatever they want to, and they just see that stuff. So that communication barrier does exist, and so it may seem kind of like they get preference, but if there's an obvious advantage to having your entire community speak Japanese towards Japanese developers, right?
That's true. Somewhat on Square for not putting staff infrastructure in for the West and for...
I agree.
I can't comment too much on how it operates, other than I know they have people dedicated to communicate stuff. So
they definitely do. But when I think about kind of all these topics of conversation, and I'm really not just shitting on Square, they've made a fantastic game. Whether I'll enjoy all of it or not is irrelevant. When I think of all these things, I lately think towards Blizzard. Because they've... Right, so Blizzard, everyone hates Blizzard! Hates Blizzard!
Yeah.
But you know what? They've actually been listening to community feedback for the last couple of years.
They also
really
are
quite
English-based.
Well.
So,
here's the thing.
Totally. I totally agree with that. But, like, Blizzard went from ignoring absolutely everyone to listening, and it's just listen.
Like, Square Enix is known for listening to their player base, right? But only for like the vast majority of things that are very important and bringing in money too. For example, if they would just acknowledge that people are interested in things like niche things like PvP and housing, for example, right? Like, it sounds as silly as it sounds, man. I want a housing representative or something. I want something to talk to. I want some place to leave my feedback on that is not a forum and that has to go through this filter from being translated and the risk of things being lost in translation too into Japanese, for example. I want. What I like about when Yoshi P visits our servers, for example, is like he gets stuff. People ask him stuff, and he can actually reply directly to him. But there's only so many things he knows about too, as a developer, like as the director, right? And for example, when he visited some random ass houses on a server, he was like, as we mentioned before, the weapons on the walls using mannequins. That is the extent of things he could have imagined, but. Making a coffee machine out of a fucking planter, like he would have never thought of that, and it's just not getting through to that stage of development.
So I do want to stop for a second because I want to make sure Ashen's still here.
I'm here. Yeah, I've been listening.
It's just yeah.
Okay.
they get ranty, and I just let the boys talk.
Okay. Because I felt bad. I was like, I'm hearing a lot from Dividus and Synt, but I haven't heard anything from Ashen here. So
Ashen,
I don't know if you want to put your 2 cents in, Ashen.
Oh, don't put me on the spot. No, I mean, I agree. The only thing I would say regarding the Japanese side of it is also a big cultural difference of they respect the content. And I mean that in the most literal way. They don't want to change the way it's made because that's seen as disrespectful. So I don't think that they would say, hey, you need to add this.
I totally think, like, as a culture, we've become very critical. I mean, this can be seen by all the backlash people have had over, like, developers and stuff and delays in games. I think, like, as a culture, we're definitely getting critical. But, I mean, this all might just be a pointless conversation. They devoted, like, huge amounts of time this expansion to, like, overhauling crafters, gatherers, and adding more side content. They might just, 6.0, next time we get, like, it's FanFest, right? They might just be, like, literally just this giant picture of this axis that says Z on it, and they're just, like, drop mic, and we're just like, well, shit.
Everyone's gonna fucking shit their pants, dude. Like, everyone's gonna lose it.
You don't know, though, do you? You don't know. They might... Everything we're saying they're not listening... They might be. They just haven't said it.
There is that whole communication thing where, like, we can put our voice out there, and we only hear from them once every 3 months, basically. Or if it's, like, really vital, there will be, like, a forum post from Yoshida or something else. But we don't get a lot of that bounce back. And I think that does, like, it makes people feel a little hopeless. Again... I was on the other side with the PvP stuff, and there are so many things, and you're just, like, voicing your opinions, and you're saying all these things, and every once in a while you chip away at something, and something positive happens, but it just feels so... There is some sort of issue there with how that interaction is with the player base and development team, but I think that's just business practice from how they normally operate in Japan. It's not really built to deal with that kind of criticism constantly and everything else. I would guess. Again, I'm such an amateur. I host a shitty podcast. I don't really know.
Oh, we do too. Don't worry about it.
I feel somewhat that they never expected, like, this game to do as well as it did in the West, which is also a foolish mistake on their part, because if you cast your mind back a very long time back to Final Fantasy 1, I'm pretty sure the West may have saved the series, so maybe pay attention. Like, the fan base was obviously there.
I mean, like, if you look at it, like, they have, for housing specifically, when it comes to furniture itself, I think they know what we're doing, and they're like, you know what, you just
totally.
do you. We're gonna feed you, like, nice furniture, you just keep quiet. And they have been spoiling us with very good furniture. Like, we've been able to create, over the last year, we've been able to create so much good shit, just due to the fact that they add so much good stuff. Obviously, it's partially from us, because of the housing design contest that they hosted, and they let us decide what goes into the game as furniture pieces. Like, they don't change the system itself, but they let us decide what gets into the game, that's fucking amazing, honestly. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and, like, honestly, aside from giving us quite a lot of really good furniture over the last kind of the life cycle of Shadowbringers, There are definitely moments where it's obvious they've seen what people are doing and putting something in because of it. Leather sofa. People were making loads of custom sofas. Then leather sofa just turns up and it's just right here. Alcove bed. Like alcove bed, we may not like it, but people were making them and then suddenly it turns up. Like they're looking at least.
No one's using it as a bed. Everyone's using it as either a ceiling or a floor. It's not being used for its intended purpose, but that's a good thing. In my opinion. I'm gonna use a bed for a wall detail or a floor anytime because this is what we do as a housing community. We every single patch we go into the housing preview, which is also an amazing feature they gave us, right? The housing preview, just being able to pull an item through the wall and say, "Hey, I'm gonna make a sink out of this toilet." Or the other way around, and you're not going to be sure whatever people can come up with, because every single time you check the tags on Twitter or you check the discourse where people talk about housing, there's going to be something like 2 items that have been in the game for like 2 years, and people have combined it to an entirely new thing that everyone's going to use for the next 3 months or so. And this is the best thing ever. I love it so much.
So,
sorry.
No.
Well, I was gonna say, like, when I look at the housing community and when we talk about this in depth, like, I wish, Japan would notice us, please. I also think about, like, the communities in the game. You have your rating, you have G-Pose, and then you have housing. And G-Pose is huge.
Yeah.
Like the glamour, like the G-Posers Discord is like 40,000 people or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think as passionate and as much as we love housing, it is tiny. It is so small, and I don't think that they just notice that a lot of these things,
Well, see, I do want to mention that a little bit because G-Pose, my opinion on that is they implemented it because players were coming up with good screenshots, and they wanted players to come up with more good screenshots because, man, you put out those pictures, that's fucking free advertising, man.
Yeah.
That's
very true.
And so I bring that back because I think housing kind of dives into almost that same thing because you're advertising their housing, right? You look at all of these amazing, like, creative things people are doing with housing in Final Fantasy XIV. Don't you want a house in Final Fantasy XIV? And so I think that they would be more inclined to be on your side with that, especially if it's coming out with beautiful pictures, which is a big part of housing, is having those shots and showing people how incredible, you can make things look. And so absolutely think Square's on your side.
Yeah, I mean, housing's a lot of what's on Twitter in regards to this game, right? Like, you want to keep that.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
It's free advertisement for them. The more profitable is, like, they don't have to do anything marketing wise, and we just do stuff for them. And obviously people pay a lot of money to get a house in the game, and they also pay, as you mentioned before, Frosty, just paying their subs just to keep the house. Which is, like, undoubtedly it's amazing for screenings. They just have to see the potential behind it a bit more, and I think the more they see it, and I think they are on the good path when it comes to that. Like, as much as I want to shit on them for not giving us a proper rotation system and the access to move things on, they are taking notice of it. I think it's on a good way, and I think the more the community grows, and it has been growing for the past year like nothing else, and the more it grows, the more they will acknowledge us, which is, like, from multiple perspectives, like both a profitable perspective and just, like, just if a niche becomes popular, hell, just like in the G-Post thing, let them have something nicer, or just to make it easier for them to use things. Because once they give us the access, oh man, I'm not gonna leave the house anymore.
I think the as you were saying, like, Square have done things that are really good for the community, and they probably are on our side. Just the housing community as a whole has this, like, kind of problem that most of the other subsets don't. I guess the Raiders kind of do a little bit now, but it's like we have this little fear in the back of our head because
Don't touch it.
Right, exactly. Which I guess Raiders now have because of, like, the whole delay of the ultimate content, right?
Yeah.
So it's just,
housing
yes, they might genuinely just be doing the the right thing, and they are doing good stuff, but that little bit of communication would probably make the world of difference to us.
I mean, I've always
Like-
been a supporter of, hey, have someone on the English side that is your raid representative, your PvP representative, your whatever. Just give them titles of various
Yes.
parts of the community.
Thank you.
And that would be really good, but I don't know if they want to put that kind of responsibility on anyone, because then you attach it to that person, and then that person, if they leave, it's a whole other thing. But at the same time, I think it would do a world of good to have that one person kind of opening up as, hey, I'm going to say something, I hear what you're saying, and this is my response. And just have that every once in a while would be fantastic. But,
I agree.
And these are measures they definitely should be trying to do as well, because to be completely blunt, this is their second MMO, and the amount of time left in its life cycle isn't that large. They're probably going to have to do a third one.
It's going to be F11 still
a few
going.
years.
I know,
11 still-
but also,
Hey,
like, the
yeah,
amount
she
of
said
people, it's 2021, the amount of people that are complaining about, like, server ticks and stuff. Come on, like, they're gonna, the engine is showing its age because it was built on top of something else, right?
Spaghetti.
Eventually.
Yeah, it was on spaghetti. And so...
End will come. There'll probably be another expansion. Whether it goes past that, I don't know.
Well, they did say they have a few expansions planned, like on their whiteboard and stuff like that, and they do have the funds for it, definitely. And I would say that just saying by how well Shadowbringers did for them, like marketing-wise, they just made so much profit, dude. They know that it's like, I think that's Square Enix's best income at the moment too, from what I remember. I would just, and I think they should invest. I can't say, man, I'm not going to be like, if they should invest more. They are probably investing a lot to basically build something upon Spaghetti Co, like you said before. But just having the acknowledgement that someone is there listening to us is just...
I mean, they can always, in terms of the Spaghetti Code, they can always take the Riot approach and just, try and rebuild their systems back end as they go.
It's just another game. There's no reason to rebuild 14. Just another 17 will come out, and that'll be it.
Yeah, like everyone feared that 16 is gonna be the next 14, basically, because Yoshida working on it, but it just turned out that 16 is just a single player Final Fantasy. And man, I was happy about that. I was like, okay, good, I can continue doing housing in a relevant game. Flying fuck. Well, that worked out for me at least.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go into this next part that a lot of people were asking about 6.0 and everything else, and I'm gonna make Ashen start to answer this one. When they're talking about 6.0, they're also talking about Island Sanctuary, which might be a little bit related to the housing game. We don't know for sure, but how do you feel about it being implemented in the game?
Okay, to be honest, I talked about it with the boys. I have no idea what it's going to be. I don't know, I enjoy it in the sense where I love farming and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that sounds really cool. And I remember when we would talk about housing, we would talk about, in addition to gardening, wouldn't it be cool if you could have animals you can get their fur? Maybe the farm's going to be like that. That would be really cool. But I have no idea what it could be. In my head, it's going to be instance. It's going to be like a, I don't know, Eureka diadem thing. I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah, it was pretty unclear, but I would have to assume it's close to I don't know, Animal Crossing or something like that. I don't know how customizable it'll be, so I don't know how transferable the skills of housing will go into it. But it is a possible avenue for you.
I think they're going to end up giving you a house on it. I think they have to, actually. I think it's the answer to nearly all of their problems.
So they're going to have
an instant house, finally?
Yeah, you're already making this instance for someone, and they're getting to have their little island. Mm-hmm. You let them decorate it. There, you have your instanced housing that's still personal. Everybody now has access to a house. You have fixed the housing shortage.
That is very true.
But I would love that.
Wouldn't that be too much, though?
And even if it's not in there at launch, I can't see them not adding it.
Okay. So the only thing that I think is kind of odd about that is that if you have a house here, where is your home? Island Sanctuary, is that your home? Or is it the house that you bought in Goblet? And you're just kind of hanging out and you put all that work into building this cool little place for it. Or
I don't know. When I think about it, I think of what Square has done so far, because they love to recycle old things, and they don't
It's Final
like
Fantasy.
to.
Yeah.
They don't like to branch out too much in terms of what they've created so far. So the way I see it is, it's probably going to be just like you do your dailies there, and it's just going to be like a beast tribe sort of, but not.
Like the fairy one, where you go in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have a lot of high hopes for it until I hear more.
Okay.
Yeah, same here. I'd like to hear a bit more about it first. What I was initially thinking, I don't know if you've played Monster Hunter World, for example. You can decorate your house too, but the way you decorate it is not placing things manually, but you swap out set pieces, like modular pieces, right? So what I was thinking it is, think a reconstruction, like since it's like a volcanic island, maybe it's something like you improve over time, like you provide resources and stuff like that, similar to the Dome and Enclave reconstruction. To some degree, and obviously it's like a daily thing, like Ashen said. You get your resources back from it, like you can plant stuff, you have the minions running around like they said before, you can have the animals there. What was it, the chocobo, the horse, was it, that you can have there. And I thought that the modular stuff is basically just set pieces that you can swap out, like nothing too major like we have right now with housing.
Right.
I kind of thought maybe they would give us a house, but they would have to fix the issue with the housing shortage at some point. And since suggestion was good that it would fix an issue, but I think that creating the exact same thing or using, let's say, the exact same interior structure would be like, hey, if you have an instant house, why do you need one in a residential area?
Yeah.
It would create an issue on itself. So what I think is, they might introduce an apartment-sized kind of interior, maybe, that either you can decorate it the same way, but it has a different exterior structure. Like there's different alignments of pillars. Like it looks nothing like in the inside of a house right now. Or it is like similar to Monster Hunter World, both in the exterior and interior, where you just swap out set pieces so that you can display weapons and stuff like that, or like change the color of a wallpaper. Like nothing major, just something small, but give us a place to call home without actually having a house. But if you still want a house and decorate entirely custom, you'd still need to get a house in a residential area, which would maybe some people would be fine with just that, and people wouldn't complain too much about a housing shortage being there, because they just have they're just fine with having a small island and a small cottage. They can decorate it a little bit, because I know that some people just feel like they want things to be done quickly. They just want a nice place to be in, but they don't want to decorate themselves, either for whatever reason it might be, right? But they just want something simple.
I find it to be a little bit more practical. Maybe it's just I'm used to being burned so bad by SE, but I just see it as they're going to do gardens for people, because that's a big sticker point. Well, no, just a garden in general. People who can't have a house, they want a garden, and people talk about that all the time, and that's a quality of life thing I always think about. Even as simple as I think it's unfair that FCs control submarines and airships. Like, why don't they use a port in Limsa or Kagane?
That'd be so cool.
And use that. It's kind of unfair in a way.
Yeah.
But the way gardening works, people want to garden. It's a huge moneymaker, and I think it's unfair that it's tied to housing.
Oh yeah, it's crazy to me. There's not like some sort of communal garden outside of apartments.
But aren't they calling it community gardens? So, isn't that the actual work in progress title they used back in the day, half a year ago, when they said, "Hey, so we're working on two things at the moment: the balconies, which, by the way, never fucking happened, and second, the community gardens," and they called it community gardens. So I was thinking, can you select a certain amount of people? You can have 5 people on your island, maybe, and you can share it or something, or is it just a place for you?
Thing.
That's the issue. I don't know if those islands are the community gardens they're talking about.
They also told us at the end of Stormblood they were going to double our garden plots, and that hasn't.
Yeah,
happened.
that never fucking happened. I'm still upset about the balconies, because it's literally
here a little bit and just talk about things that are given us.
Wait, have I actually confirmed that they're adding it to the game at some point? Like,
They
did
are
they even
hinting
mention it?
so hard, but they've done it so many times, man.
They were like teasing us like with Viera at some point. They will just like have the slightest tease, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, it's confirmed," and basically we're just gonna get it in the next expansion.
Yeah. By the way,
I hope.
chat, I'm going to ask you all if you have any questions to go ahead and put them in there. I know a few people have put some questions in there, but we've been going for over 2 hours, by the way. I don't know if you guys realized.
Oh god, yeah, it's getting.
So we've been doing really good with the show. That's a positive thing. I always love it when like the shows just like sort of just fly by, and I just don't even realize it. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, now would be the time to ask them, and I'll try to get them asked here on the show. I mean, from some of the talk that we've had so far, I do want to know, are you guys for them changing and maybe going to an instanced housing system, or are you against that?
I would love it.
Really? As like a whole instanced housing thing? If everything was, if every single house was instanced?
I wouldn't mind, because honestly, I don't really go outside of my little bubble, my FC and my house.
No. I just nah. Like, yeah, but even like the FC hang out. Bear in mind, me and Ashen are in the same FC. Like, even they hang around outside the FC and stuff. Like, if it was instanced, you wouldn't have that. You know, like I enjoy like in my current house it hasn't happened much, but in my previous ones I'd like run up to the summoning bell and my neighbours would be there and I'd talk to them and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I don't like people.
How would visiting people work in that case? Like, if let's say you have an instance house, can you click on your name and they can teleport inside your house immediately?
Sure,
like,
yeah, I would assume FCs, of course, would be together.
That'd be neat. That'd be neat. I'd like it.
I'm not against instance housing at all, but I don't think you destroy the system we have to have it. I think we should definitely have it because everyone should have access.
Okay.
But maybe maybe it's one or the other. Like,
maybe
if you want your house in a ward, that's fine. You keep it, but you can't have this instanced house.
Okay.
Pick one. And then at that point, you're paying for the garden and the community, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're paying for on that plot.
And man, I wish I would not pay for that because holy shit, I hate all of those Picer houses around me, the chocobo places. Man, I can't wait for Ishgard to look fucking ugly. Like, it's gonna be awful. Like, I'm gonna have this amazing immersive place that I rebuilt with my bare hands. And then some kind of idiot is gonna slam a chocobo house next to me, and I really don't want that.
Not just some kind of idiot. A lot of idiots.
Yeah. That's the worst part about it, dude. Yeah. Like, if I could have the option, what I wished the Ishgard Restoration is gonna do, I hoped that everyone is gonna get a large mansion in like as a gift for the hero and savior of Ishgard, right? Like, you're just gonna be there and you're gonna have those NPCs around you having houses like we have right now there, right? And there's gonna be one specified plot where you can be like, hey, or like 3 specified plots. It's gonna be a small, a mid, or a large, and you can pick whatever the fuck you want, or have even all 3 of them, and just have that as an instanced housing area for you. But no, they gave us the same bullshit we always had, and everyone hates it or loves it depending on how you treat that issue. But personally, I really hate it because they promise that it's not going to be the same way that housing districts are were in the past, and they still fucking did it, and I'm still upset about it.
So I want to bring this up because I just saw a chat made me laugh a little bit. What if they do an HOA system for Ishgard, where like they come around and say, hey, no, we don't do these kind of roofs here. We don't do papaya in this neighborhood.
Oh my god, so many people would be. So many people get upset.
I mean, we can roleplay like that.
Yeah. Also, like, my placard on my personal house in Goblet is like telling everyone in the ward to come talk to me because I want to make like the ward just generally look like the same.
Oh, are you like telling
people? Although no one's taken me up on it so far, and I've actually been in like a cold war with my neighbor until recently because they glitched something onto like my little landing, and I kind of was just looking at it like, But they've got rid of it now.
I have like my entire row. Like my neighbor have like 5 cannons faced at my garden, at my house, and I'm like and they have something like that in the Ishgard district. But that's so funny, like thinking about how people do that because Leah did this on Twitter. I think they did it right. They came up to the people in their neighborhood and they're like, "I'm gonna pay you this manor wall." It was Meekan. Okay, Meekan was it. I'm gonna pay you this wall, this very expensive wall usually, and you're gonna use it and dye it orange. but I'm gonna finance it for you, but you're still gonna use it. Please don't use chocobo houses and stuff like that. They came up to them and paid for them just to not have an ugly ward. And that's funny. I would love to do it. Yeah.
Like if you like start seeking out people in your neighborhood, just like waiting for them. Oh, I found you. You came to your house. All right, look, I'm gonna pay you some money to not look like shit.
I give you $5 to fuck off.
Just, come on, we can work this out. All right, you have a really shitty house, and I'll give you 100 million gil. Just let me make it.
You know,
Oh my God.
I got lucky in that respect because I'm in Goblet right now, and I moved there, and the ward was empty for months. This was before like the big housing crisis, and my friend was all by himself in like the best plot in Goblet. This ward is so empty, nobody's there. So me and a bunch of friends moved over there and with the FC. So we're all in a bubble, which is really nice. So, you know, everyone decorates and it's a pretty little thing. It's nice to be around friends. But then the house next to me was empty for months until someone bought it. And I was so worried. I was like, "Oh my God, what if they're gonna put up like an ugly chocobo house?" I didn't know what to do. And then it turned out it was someone I sort of knew. When I first started housing, I would stalk lots of wards and everything. And I liked this person's house a lot. And I'd visit it and I started talking to them. And on his alt, he bought that house so he could make a nice, pretty house so it doesn't ruin the aesthetic. I thought that was really nice.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I didn't even think about anyone being put in that situation. Oh, who the fuck bought this house over here? We're going to have to worry about them.
Oh,
it was funny.
When I saw that my neighbor moved away and instead of their house was like a large shirogane house in the middle of the lavender beds, man, I was just delighted just to see another weep move in next to me.
When that bench was on like my landing, I was basically outside my neighbour's house with like a boombox, just waiting for them to turn up so I could confront them about it.
Just throwing rocks against her window.
Real quick, Ashen, you said you're in the Goblet. Yeah. Synt, where's your house?
Goblet.
Okay. Div?
Missed.
Okay. I'm in the Goblet too. I assume almost no one's in the Goblet, and no one likes the Goblet. But I do like it.
Okay.
I was about to say.
General community-wise, they don't like the Goblet. However, it has the best skybox, and also they're the best houses for glitching, despite the fact that grid snap's broken in them. If we look past broken grid snap, they're the best houses for glitching. They have really good rafters. The staircase on the large is really easy to glitch on. All their railings over all their staircases are really good to glitch on, and they have the deepest spawn depth, which is a thing that matters when you're trying to build like complete full custom walls because you're loading further in the house, so you can build up more behind you.
Yeah, so it's like people really like they like lush green areas, or like it's either with the districts we have, either it's the lush green, it's a beach, or like it's something they wouldn't have in real life basically. And who the fuck would like to live like in a desert like that, for example, right?
In theory, be the least popular ward.
It is the least popular wall. Like if you go on Spriggan, for example, on the Chaos Data Center, one of the newer servers, it's empty. No one has a house there. Like you can just go there and buy a house.
Wow.
But in theory, it's a good-looking plot. They like with all of the oases, like the springs there, the greenery and the little water puddles there, the little ponds. I mean, next to the houses, it looks really good. Like it would be amazing to visit a place like that in real life. And I'm looking at like Lavender Beds. It's just like it's some kind of place in the middle of the woods next to a lake. You're gonna get fucking bitten by mosquitoes all the time in theory. It just seems like a very unpleasant place for me to live in.
Did you just imply there were mosquitoes in Lavender Beds, not Goblet?
Have you seen how large those things in the fucking Great Wood are?
That's backwards, man.
I mean, okay,
that's
to be
straight
fair,
up backwards.
Listen, it's like a small like what is it, like a cliff edge? It's like a goblet in the middle of like a ravine or something. I like it. It looks good. I like it a lot. It's designed very well because it's very unique. In my opinion,
I like how all the wards look generally. I even like. I really dislike Shiro. It's my least favorite by an absolute long shot. But like in terms of how it looks aesthetically, it's kind of fine. It's just a shame that the inside of the houses are just like broken.
Oh yeah, if we were talking about the interior of the houses, Goblet is the worst in my opinion.
Nah,
Are the best.
Goblet's the best for glitching, apart from grid
For
snap.
glitching, yes, you can make the cleanest stuff. That's true.
Lavender beds should be like really good, but like all the railings around all the stairs, like you can't storage place on them, like at all.
That's true. Like mist and stuff, like especially mist stairs are very nice to work with, actually.
Yeah, mists are great for that kind of thing.
Because it's like Minecraft blocks going up and down, nothing else.
I have this internal tier list of like the wards, and it's based entirely upon your ability to do glitches in them, nothing to do with the aesthetics.
It would make sense.
Yeah. At this point, housing has developed into a thing where we just do custom stuff. We don't use the exterior of the walls anymore. We just do everything ourselves.
Well, some people do. Like,
obviously,
we personally don't, but I mean, there are people that use all 3 floors and maximum space of a house, and they make really nice houses.
That's true.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this viewer question here. We'll get through just a few of them. This one is asking kind of about being commissioned to do a design. They said, if someone asks you to copy a design from another designer, do you think that is okay as long as the person copying design will mention the links for the original design, or do you think permission is needed from the original designer? Difficult if the designer maybe is like from a different country and there's a language barrier.
I would still ask for permission, in my opinion.
Don't like it personally.
What way is that?
I don't think it's always a black and white answer, but the broad concept, I don't like it.
Like personally, I would never just straight up rebuild or redesign something that someone else has used, because it would just, as I said before, it's like I want to make something unique and cool for myself too. Yeah. But if someone pays good money for it, like if the person who made the original design consented, like you would go up to them and ask, hey, someone's doing it for that, but how would you feel as a designer that someone else is getting paid for something that you come up and spend so much time on? Like, would you ask for some kind of shit? I mean, to some degree, it fuels your ego. But
I like being copied by people on their personal houses when they're doing it because they like the work.
Yes,
they want it themselves, and they're also doing it to like teach themselves. I like that. I think copying people for your own development is a great thing, but copying someone to get paid for it, and it's someone else doing it, like. Why haven't you just asked the person that built it in the first place? And if you have asked them and they've said no, like, I
honestly don't see an issue. There was a time where I was bothered because it was a lot of work, and then again, my own commission prices I usually charge for free, and then I find out someone got paid like real money to go copy something I did. Then it's like, wow, it's kind of unfair. But in the grand scheme of things, so what? At the end of the day, I made this really cool design. Someone copied it. So what? It doesn't matter to me. I don't know.
Okay.
For me, it's very gray. Like I'm not. If someone would do a design of mine, I wouldn't be sure how to feel about it. I think it's very dependent on the situation. Maybe if it's like a friend of mine or something and he wants me to help him with doing something that I've done before, maybe. But copying and everything, I do not feel comfortable with it. But I don't think that I would say, hey, don't do that, honestly. Like, all power to you. If you can make bank of it for doing basically nothing, since you just recreate something else. I know it's still a tedious process if you have like lots of glitching, right?
Photocopying's a skill in itself, mate. Genuinely.
Yeah, like stuff like Synt creates, for example, like holy shit, that's
portrait
recreating
artists
stuff like
make
that.
a whole career out of being a photocopier.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
I don't particularly like the concept. I'm never going to kick up a fuss about it, but like if someone wanted one of my houses and they were willing to pay someone for it, I just think they should probably ask me myself first. And I don't mean as in like, hey, your permission. I mean like, just ask me if I want to do it.
Right.
Go to the source.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But they're gonna be like, wait, did I just give you my money that I was about to make?
No, that's not what I mean. Like
I know.
I mean, if someone DM'd me and was just like, hey, can you build this house that Ashen made in mine? Like, I'd be like, why aren't you asking Ashen? It just doesn't.
True.
Ask Ashen. And if she goes, nah, but I don't care, like, then ask me.
Oh yeah,
And then-
yeah. I mean, yeah, or he might not have time, right? That's the
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
thing to it. So I guess it just depends.
They
So
could give me half of the money.
yeah, you have like you just get you get
Royalties.
yeah.
Yeah, royalties like licensed even.
Got it.
That's it. Maybe I should draft up a license agreement on my houses.
Holy shit, that's so good. I'm gonna remember that one.
Here's a question. I don't know if you've ever ran into it, but I guess they're curious about this. Have you ever had a client commission you to add to a previous designer's work or redo it
Yes.
totally? Yeah?
Yes.
Someone
I
was
don't
just
mind
really
it sometimes. I don't mind it depending on what it is. Yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, people will commission someone and then they're not happy with the end result. And they're very not happy. And I don't think that's cool. And some people just don't have it in them to, like, fight about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you pay someone something.
Oh, is that me or Synt?
I think that's Synt, because...
I think that is Synt, yeah.
Yeah. Synt, are you still there?
His internet's
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
he's gone.
It's
He's the
okay.
goner.
It's okay.
No.
But you guys can
Yeah, but,
continue his point if you like, or go into...
You,
Oh, well,
you go for a dash, yeah.
I have been in a situation where I had to redo something, and it was actually kind of sad in a way because it was for a friend, and he had actually wanted to commission me, but I don't have time, and at that time I wasn't taking commissions, so I didn't realize how important it was to him for me to do it. So he had waited for months with this large FC, and he finally hired someone off of Reddit or something, and they did it in one day. And it was just he was so embarrassed by it, he just had it locked. So when I found out, I was like, okay, let me look at it. It can't be that bad. But it wasn't great. And so I tore it down and I did a thing for him that he likes. So in those cases, because I knew him and it was personal, I did it. But if someone, I have been approached to add on to things. And to be honest, like, no, I'm not interested in that. I like to have a blank palette. There have been times where people have just said, like, hey, can you do, like, a room and I'll pay you $1 million? And I'm just like, okay, I'll just put a bed, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, but that's different.
Mm-hmm.
I disconnected.
Oh,
you
welcome
didn't tell.
back.
Hey, welcome back.
Where did I get to before I got cut
can't-
off?
I don't know.
Did I even get into it?
You didn't really get into it. You were just about to.
Jesus, yeah, the UK and internet just after midnight on the weekends.
Oh, okay.
It drops without
Oh, I
fail.
forget. It's really late for you. I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
alright.
We don't have too much longer. You'll be in bed before too long. But I didn't know if you wanted to get back into it, Synt.
I don't remember what I even said.
Fair enough. We won't even worry about it then.
Okay, but I guess I could just continue in that case. I agree with Ashen that adding onto a build specifically, I could never do that. Either I start from the very beginning and have it have a structure based on what I think is good, because working with someone else's thing, someone else's design, it just feels wrong in my opinion. To me, but I heard a lot of horror stories, both from Ashen and too, from other designers, where it's been like they paid a good amount of money, like a very something that someone like Ashen would take, for example, and they would pay a full price. It has been done in 2 days, and then it looks fucking awful. And then they hire different designers for far less or free because people do take pity on that because it is. Sometimes it can be very bad, and I do feel bad for it, or it's not what they imagine it to be. But then again, it's very subjective, right? Imagine it's a very good design, but it's not what someone had in mind, maybe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Would you, as a designer, feel comfortable about tearing it down, or argue with him?
I don't see the issue with adding on to something, especially if it's if you're in a position where you are literally adding on to it, like the house was clearly not actually finished. I don't see an issue with that.
It's just it's only fine
if someone's going can you just rip out this section and redo it? I'd kind of ask the why behind it. But I mean, because sometimes things happen, right? Like you commission someone, shit happens in real life. They're halfway through your house. They don't get to finish it. Maybe you like how that half looks. Maybe someone else can pick it up and finish it like for them. Like I wouldn't mind doing that. It happens with like every other thing in the world. How many?
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
I mean, I've had tattoos where like I've had an artist start it and like it just hasn't got finished, and I've ended up having someone else finish it.
I mean, when it comes to that, I guess the majority of people would probably agree with you. Like it is simple, right, in theory, but it's just a personal thing. I guess it's just very subjective. Where I personally can't say that I am able to work with something that someone else made. It just doesn't feel right to me. So I guess I can't really say that I agree with that. But just I can understand why and how, but I just can say that I can do it for myself.
That's fair. I do want to ask, is there any kind of like infighting or anything between house designers or anything like that, or is it a pretty happy community?
Drama exists.
It doesn't exist?
It doesn't.
It
It
exists.
it exists
every
in
community. has drama.
every community. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the general vibe is pretty good, but yeah, of course it exists.
It is
It's-
like
The thing is, it's artists, right? Like, if we look at this, it's artists. Artists have egos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna happen.
overall, in my opinion, it's pretty welcoming, very helpful between each
Yeah.
other. But I think like behind the scenes, surely there's some trash talking and shit. But it's
Ash is
like that in every
trash talking
community.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get off the show and like Ash is like, I hate this motherfucker, and just like she
Wow.
goes off.
That sounds exactly like her.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's fair.
Man,
That's fair.
got exposed, Ashen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is it mostly just drama about like opinions on other people's stuff, or is that? Is it even worth mentioning? You're talking about.
For party talk.
I mean, it's there's but I mean, like some people are just shitty.
Okay.
Like people are just some people are shitty, and so it bleeds into other things, right? Like
Sometimes you're just not gonna vibe with someone's personality, no matter what.
yeah.
It's like it's just normal social things.
Yeah,
But
I guess.
exactly. Like the community as a whole is pretty friendly. It's really welcoming. It's just it's literally like anything.
Like you don't have some person secretly going around and just like going and copying everyone's ideas and then trying to undercut their commissions by like
That exists.
That totally exists.
As I mentioned, people have egos, right? And there are some very, very, very entitled people that think that they deserve something that others don't based on whatever the fuck they create. It doesn't matter what it is, but just the fact that those people exist, you don't want to have anything to do with those people. And you just kind of ignore them and they just go away by themselves, because if you are just sticking to that like very friendly, welcoming community and like support each other, there's no space for those kind of people, and they can just go fuck off.
Yeah.
You have a problem with the housing community in that obviously, like, as you know, a lot of it's on Twitter. It might as well just be Instagram, and you know what people are like with Instagram, where they, want to get all their likes and everything. It breeds a culture.
It's true.
And there's no on the outside, there's absolutely no drama. Like you don't see any Twitter comments or like calling you out or like calling you a sexist or something for building house differently. It's just based on it's just that kind of community. But behind the scenes, it's always behind the scenes. While on the other side, there's usually Twitter is like the cesspool of very stupid people.
Are you suggesting that I need to start canceling people in public?
Oh.
Excuse me. How dare you build this modern house? How dare you? This is based on my culture. Oh my god.
But I mean, in the large, I guess. Go ahead, Ashen. Go ahead.
I would say it's exactly what Div said. Like sometimes you're gonna have someone with an ego or just the personality that just grates people, and within this community, it comes to a point where they're just gonna go away because, for the most part, everyone just wants to share and they want to be happy. And if you have like this negative Nancy, they're not getting the kind of feedback they want, so they're just gonna go.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, and so that's what I was gonna say as well. Is that in the whole of the community is really more of a positive, good community. But of course, there's always going to be the little horrible shits somewhere in the corner causing problems.
in terms of a large scale community, it's certainly the best of any that I've been in.
I agree.
Most just tend to divulge into just like really small cliques, and that's literally it. You never get this feel of like an overall community, and I think housing definitely does have an overall kind of feel with it.
Yeah, it's.
Yep.
I think with these things that are growing art-wise, anything art-wise, because it grows, and not just the people who making the art, but people looking at the art become kind of obsessed in that kind of community as well, because they want to just see beautiful things. And so you're providing that, and I think that it helps the community grow a lot. And it's usually people just happy to see things that look good.
That's true. And with obviously with every growing community, the more people who are like standing out are the most verbal ones. You know, like you will always have like it takes a single person to start something, and the bigger the community gets, that's like with housing, how it grew in the past year, for example. There are gonna be some people who are like show up occasionally and just yell.
Yeah.
And
well, I do want to ask one last question before we get into the final bits of the show and everything. If Square Enix was in front of you and you've already told them about the Z or Z axis, right? You already explained that. What are some things that you would say, please, Square, do this and fix this?
I got a good few of these.
Hang on,
Okay.
I wrote it down too. we always want to improve something too.
Okay.
Remove pillars in large houses.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they really hinder us.
Let's take them out. And so if we're talking about this, then let's move the staircases. Especially in medium houses, they're in the worst spot. Put them to the back. Let's move them. The sun, that damn sun.
Get rid of the sun.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
Explain it first,
you know how you have rays that come out of windows?
Yeah.
So that's relative to the actual time in the game. And the way it works is any window that's on the north wall can't have rays out of it. And because you naturally zone in on the south wall, you kind of have to design with that in mind. Let me flip the sun. Let me move it to the other side. I want rays on that wall.
Basically,
And also-
yeah.
I just want control. I want control of time inside of houses.
Time and space.
That's really.
Yeah.
Yeah, because right now we have to rely both on we have to rely both on the day-night cycle for a house to look good too, depending on of course how you use the windows. But obviously the direction matters too, so it kind of plays into each other. It'll give us the option to lock in a time of day maybe and have that permanent, and then also let us decide where the light is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if it goes for the entire house, like let's say the sun is in the north right now, and it's always going to shine towards the south. Something like that would be very simple, and it would change everything, really. Because right now we really have to just adjust ourselves to the direction of the interior, and it's always the same. That's the worst part about it. It's always the fucking same.
I think especially lately, because I've done a lot of it myself, we've been kind of building custom windows in a way to try and remove reliance on the day-night cycle by making either like permanent night windows or like permanent daytime windows and stuff. And I just don't feel we should have to do that, honestly. Which also, I saw in chat, moonlight. Yeah, we need moonlight.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's right now. It's like as soon as it becomes dark in game, the light just goes out. No sun rays. The window is just this ugly gray, and it's like it looks so fucking awful. We just need like this bluish nice light because we have. There is a window in the game that is the stained glass imitation window, right? And it has a night cycle for windows. And if you place the windows from storage, the night cycle is even there. But as soon as you place the window down, it's gone. It's programmed in there.
There's a brief moment of moonlight at like 3 a.m. or something, isn't there? For like a split second.
Yeah, for a second, and then it goes away.
Well, some of the default exterior windows even show moonlight. So
Yeah.
it's not fair.
Yeah.
It exists. Just put it in. Which also, this wasn't in our list, but I was thinking about this the other day. I really think we should be able to sync the interior light level with the day cycle, because I have this issue in my house now that like if I want it at light 0, it can only be during the nighttime. Otherwise, like the light that comes through ruins it. If I could be like, oh, it's 6 p.m, drop the lights to 0, but at 6 a.m, bring them back up to 3. I want that.
You want like kind of adjustable lighting depending on the time of day?
Yeah.
Like automatically,
exactly.
like you have your whole house set up. You like, hey Siri, can you please do this and that?
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
So like
Just gives more
time.
control, basically.
Because
Yeah.
this is, I think I've thought about this because of obviously my personal house. You know how it pretty much has like a day mode and a night mode. I should just switch between them like automatically. Why not?
Here's another thing based on that switch, right? Give us a layout option. So this is something that it would be very hard and annoying to implement. Like, and initially I thought of it like as a blueprint thing, like being able to have like some kind of a creative mode, right? And then as soon as you finish that blueprint, you just have to fill out the items. Basically, you just throw them in in an inventory, and as soon as all of the items are actually there, bam, the house just appears. Like everyone can see it, and before it was just you, right?
Yeah.
Basically replacing part of it and just preparing it without having to buy 20 banquet tables and not using them like I do, because you couldn't experiment with it before. The preview helped with it, but something similar to that would be great. But like Synt said, being able to switch between sets, like imagine a gear set, right? Like you prepare this layout for your house, and then if you are feeling in a different mood, you swap to a different one. Like right now, I want to have this for the Christmas event, and I want to switch it back to a normal house layout as soon as the Christmas event is over, instead of rebuilding the entire thing.
Yeah.
This is
I
something
think
that I would love to see.
I think we should get some sort of test build mode, even
Yo.
if it's like, because the thing is like, even if it's just like a separate, you know, like the benchmark client, like being separate. Even if we just have like a little separate fucking test build where it's just pick your size of house and then just throw your crap around. It'd be great.
That'd be great. That'd be amazing.
It would be really good for like seeing what having that freedom would do to like the community and what they come up with.
I think it would, like, the community would like bloom, like it's like an entire revolution of housing designers, because now people don't have to rely on like making actual, like crafting the furniture beforehand, and they can just say, hey, I can go into I can place those 3 items down and then build maybe a furniture piece out of it without buying it and losing money, because that is also a wall for players to just not be as creative as they could be, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, furniture's expensive, like
Yeah.
and some of it's like material wise sucks to farm.
All right, Ashen, did you have anything that you wanted to throw in?
Not really. No.
Okay. No, that's so I do want to one thing that we always have to keep in mind, it's good to have like all these ideas and everything, but do you guys remember I guess I should say this, any little thing that they add in there, there's a possibility they could do it just the wrong way. I don't know if any of you remember, what was it, when people were fishing at a certain time during the day or something, that it would crash the servers.
Oh yeah.
Aquariums.
Was
Okay,
it-
so Synt mentioned it before.
Yeah.
There's an issue if in the beginning when they introduced like being able to place multiple aquariums, right, in a house instead of just one. If you overlapped them, the overlapping glass and water texture caused the instance to crash and the server to crash. And they had to, which is funny if you think about it. Like they had to prevent you, even if you glitch it, you can't even glitch it. So they are aware that we glitch stuff, but they just won't, like they don't forbid us to do it. But with aquariums, they do it because it actually causes issues for the servers. So you can't have overlapping aquariums. No matter what you do, you can't do it at all. And this is one of those things that are, they introduced it. It's a nice feature. It's good that we have multiple aquariums now. But they didn't test it, that they could overlap, and then, well, it happened like a day or I think the hotfix happened like a day after, right?
It was very soon. I remember some people couldn't get out of their house. It was just a feedback loop. And it was bad.
But the funny thing with the aquarium that I like with it is it's like the only thing in the game that has like true reflections.
Yeah, that's true.
So they made this item with like this, it's so much better than the others. The way that like light affects the glass and the reflections in it, and they never considered that if you just put 2 together, it'd break everything.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned before. It's also why the showcases were a thing. You can't overlap them because it's simple. Like it's as soon as a transparent texture is involved, the game doesn't know how to handle multiple overlapping transparent textures.
The game has a really, really good lighting system in terms of like shadows it casts and everything.
Yeah.
But like you could brick a PS4. You could definitely brick a PS3 if you really tried with a house. You could.
Yeah,
you
somewhat,
could definitely you could definitely brick a PS4 if you really tried in terms of like what you want to do. Because I run around at like 150 FPS normally, and I walked into a house and I almost couldn't close the game once just because it dropped that bad.
Right now in my house I'm working on, I have a few lighting fixtures there, and I'm dropping with shaders, right? I have 70 frames and I'm dropping to 20, just because I have a bunch of lighting fixtures.
It's all the calculations like it's trying to do.
Spaghetti code. Nothing I can do about it, I guess.
I don't think it is. I don't think that is spaghetti code. Like it's the lighting, as far as like what it does, seems really well coded.
It's well coded and
like
visually
well coded.
Yeah, but it's not coded in a way that will function. So
well,
that's the spaghetti part. Like
to be fair, I don't think most games are coded in a way where if you drop 200 lamps in one spot and then put one wall down for it to like reflect off of, I don't think most games are going to know what to do with that.
Yeah, that's true. It's again a thing that Square Enix introduces something, but they don't know what is going to happen, and it's and it's up to us to crash their game.
They'll find out, as soon as the servers start crashing.
They will find out, eventually.
But that being said, we've been going almost 3 hours now. This has been a great show. I really wanted to learn a lot more about the housing community. I definitely felt like I have. You guys have been fantastic guests. I want to say that. I want you all to do your own shout-outs here in a second, but I want to do a special just shout-out to make sure people know as well. Since you all are part of the HGXIV community, can you please plug as much of that as you can before we start doing the individual plugs? Like if they want to watch the podcast, where and how, if they want to go to a website, a Discord, everything. Okay.
Well, we're pretty much HGXIV all across the front. We're on Twitter. We have a Discord. The Twitter has a Discord link. We are working on guides on YouTube as well. That's HGXIV, and I think that's about it.
It's pretty much HGXIV everywhere. It's at HGXIV on Twitter. It's /HGXIV on Twitch. The Discord link is in the bio on Twitch and on Twitter.
All right, I got both of those links in chat. So
luckily the name wasn't taken. Nowhere.
So what time is your podcast again? Normally, I know I took up your day today.
Okay, we're normally at 6 o'clock Eastern.
6 o'clock Eastern on Saturdays, right?
Yes.
Is it every Saturday?
Every Saturday, depending on how we're feeling.
Okay. That's fair. Okay, well, now that you guys know where to find them, I do want to go to each one of you and have you kind of do individual, like any closing bits you want to say, and shout outs to whoever you would want to shout out. Your mom, your best friend, whatever, your dog. And Ashen, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Oh, God. Okay, well, I'm on Twitter, Ashen Bride. I have a Tumblr, guys. Wow. If anyone else has a Tumblr, that's a big, like...
I mean, I don't use it, but I mean, like, I'm sure there's people in chat that do.
I like Tumblr, but I'm mostly found on Twitter and obviously the HGXIV Discord. I don't have anything to plug. Okay. That's it.
All right. And then Synt?
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter. It's @SlapSynt. Don't ask why it's backwards. It just is.
Can you tell me why it's Slap? Why Slap Synt?
Because I needed a surname in this game. I was Synt in every other game, and then it's like, oh, you need a surname. So I just I put Slap.
You slapped it on there?
Well, I played a lot of WoW, and I had an alt called Slappy Bag, and I always had a rogue called like Side Slap, so I just put the slap in there. So it's Synt Slap, but I just prefer Synt.
Appreciate your time, Frosty.
Yeah, so Twitter at SlapSynt. Shout out my mum for just existing. Shout out my cats for being annoying shits. Shout out Ashen for being weirdly quiet and trusting me and Div to say everything, because quite frankly, I think we just echo chambered her thoughts a lot of the time.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's good. It's good. All right, and Dividus.
Yeah, for me, it's I just only use Twitter, so it's Dividus Yliaster. It's a very complicated name. I'm sorry about that. I tried to hit up a French dude who just has Dividus. He hasn't gotten back to me yet. Um, shout out to the entire housing community, honestly, because I had a very big creative block in the past few months, and it's been showing a lot with the time I've taken up to build houses. But I've been constantly watching, like, as much as I haven't talked, I've been always watching people, what they can create. And it makes me really happy that a community that I've seen grow basically from the start of it, from the very small Tumblr post with like 10 likes, has grown into such a big thing on Twitter and social media in general. So shout out to everyone in the housing community, especially in fashion decoration and our own HGXIV Discord, for being so creative and showing me and keeping me going to being able to show me so many creative builds and inspiring both me and everyone else basically. And it's just, you guys are amazing. I love you all.
Oh, sweet of you. Well, I do want to go ahead and make sure I say again, you've all been fantastic on this show. It's been absolutely a blast talking with you. And I hope that you had a good time on it too.
It's been an absolute pleasure being here.
It was amazing. Thank you so much for hosting that, Frosty.
Of course, of course. I'm going to do some of my own personal shout-outs. I want to thank my wife, Carrara, for putting up with me for doing stuff like this every weekend, and my wonderful life in Final Fantasy XIV. Because if I didn't do this, some people, more petty, might not be happy with me spending hours of my weekend doing podcasts, but she loves it, so it's great. That being said, also thank you very much, Andre Kane, for the music we do in the intro and the closing. Thank you very much to all the people who support the show in any way that you support the show, even if it's just by coming here and watching it. It means a lot to me. And I do have a show that mostly is planned out next week. We're going to be doing our back to Party Finder discussion, and we're bringing Arthas on. And we're going to discuss Party Finder again after we had one that was before 5.4, and now I think it's time to finally follow up on it. That should be a pretty interesting show, loud and long. So look forward to that next week. And then otherwise, stream-wise, I'll be back also Monday night to do more Party Finder myself. And yeah, that's it. I do have a closing video for saying thanks to Patreon supporters, and we will be rating somebody shortly after this, so stick around for all that. Guys, remember, and make sure you all say bye when I say bye at the same time here in just a second. So remember, be good, keep cool, stay frosty. Bye, guys!
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for watching that show. And especially for those that stick around for this last video. It's an important part because I do want to give a special thanks to the people who do give a little bit of funding to the show to make it happen, which is our Patreon supporters. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, you just have to the exclamation mark Patreon in the chat, and you will see that pop up, or it will be on the Discord video. And I always do a special thanks to the handful of people who provide more than I believe anyone should, but it's definitely appreciated. One is Dividus Antonio, fantastic member of our community. He's been around since I started streaming. Then there's Tagalong, who has been helping out a lot with questions and other things with the show. There's Nimic from Awk Morning. If you guys need to check out that website, you definitely should for anything with rating. And then there is Super Miyu, who runs teamcraft.com. Another wonderful website that you should check out if you're interested in anything to do with crafting. Now, that being said, I don't have anything really special this week at all. I was trying to think of it. I'm like, at some point, we're just going to hit dry on some ideas. I do hope that I will be able to create some more stuff later on. But, I just want to take the second to give thanks to those people who are helping, whether it's subs, whether it's Patreon, whether it's just watching the show and being here. I really need to figure out how to do a lot more stuff with MogTalk and promoting it, because I've been doing a pretty poor job in that. So if anyone wants to give me some ideas on that, feel free to let me know. And anyone who's watching us apparently cares about the show enough to listen to a Patreon thank you video. So thank you for being here. Stick around for the credits. And of course, the raid that we'll do shortly after. Thank you guys. Bye.